live. Hello, I'm Sonja. Okay, so you guys feel free, as we're doing this training, if you have questions that come up, this is a safe learning environment, so feel free to jump in if you have questions that come up as we're covering certain topics. Just to give you an idea of what we're going to be covering over the next 3 hours. We're going to start out, I gave everyone a worksheet, and we're going to have a discussion around your strategy. I am a big believer that strategy comes first. It's great to dabble and play around with running ads, but you can end up wasting a lot of money on Facebook if you don't have clear direction with what you're doing. And even once you start doing it, know that ads can't just keep running. You actually have to look at them daily or weekly to look for ways to optimize them so that they can improve over time, because most people want to get a lower cost per click or pay as little as possible per click that's coming over to your website or wherever you're routing people to turn that into a buyer or seller lead. So keep that in mind, strategy comes first. So we're gonna spend some time, this is the part where a lot of people squirm because they're like, can't we just get right to it? No, we can't. We need to spend time here and be very clear in mapping this out first, and then once we've mapped it out, we can have a plan of attack. So I apologize for those of you who came in early. I'm gonna repeat myself just a little bit, and just so that those who came in a little bit later just know who I am. So my name is Sonja Crystal Williams. I own a marketing agency. We're located in Midtownish, Virginia Highlandish area. It's called Go Getter Marketing Group. I have a tie to Keller Williams. My husband, Chris Williams, has been an agent here at this office, I don't know, maybe 8 years, but he's in the industry maybe 12 or so years. Started out in another office and moved here. We were here back when the office was what is now, I think, Walgreens or Piedmont or something like that. We were here since back then. And so that's just a little bit of background. I've worked with him for years on his marketing. There used to be a guy that used to come here named Terrence. And Terrence was one of the first people, I don't know, any of you remember Terrence? Some of you have been around, you know Terrence. So Terrence was actually one of the first people. I was already doing marketing, but he was one of the first people to teach me SEO. And everything I learned, or at least the basics of SEO, I'll say, and everything I've learned has been self-taught and or through experience, years of working with many-sized businesses from startup all the way to corporate on their digital marketing campaigns, many of which include running Facebook ad campaigns. So that's just a little bit of background story. I put my email address up on the board. It's my name, Sonja Crystal Williams, Sonja with a J, Crystal with a C, and Sonja@gogettergroup.com is my email address. You guys are more than welcome to contact me after this training has ended if you have any questions, basic questions. If you're stuck anywhere as you're launching your campaigns, you're more than welcome to reach out to me, okay? So let me just ask you guys, by a show of hands, how many of you are already running ads on Facebook? Okay, so about half, looks like about half of you guys. Don't be shy, be proud of it. All right, so good. So about half of you are running campaigns. For those of you that aren't, that's fine. We're gonna cover some of the basics, but like I said, we'll start with strategy first when it comes to launching your campaigns. So let's start out by talking about a few basic things. Give me a second, my slides were not up. So I need to just make sure I get them up for you. Okay. Alrighty. All right, so a couple of things. I mentioned we're going to start with strategy. Okay, great. All right, so a couple of things. Let me just make a statement as it relates to social media overall, because this is something a lot of businesses do when you're first getting used to just promoting your business on social media. So here this quote says, focus on how to be social, not how to do social. Okay? And that's something important to take into account. When you're on social networks with like Facebook, your big goal, one of your top priorities should always be, don't think I need to sell something. Think I want to create an emotional connection with people who can potentially buy from me, and they will want to work with me, not me pushing myself out to them. And part of how you do that is you leverage that just through your day-to-day activities by telling your story. You guys come on in if you want, if you're participating. But just by leveraging what you're already doing on a daily basis, leveraging when you're working with clients, getting photos, as cheesy as it may sound, because a lot of people are like, look, I don't like doing selfies, I don't like taking photos, and as cheesy as that stuff may sound, you'd be surprised at how much your friends, your family, and even your clients that you've worked with in the past truly have an interest in what it is that you're doing. So again, part of it's creating that emotional connection, letting your authentic personality shine through, and that's part of how you become social, not focus on doing social and selling. And on Facebook, that's very much the case. Now, I mentioned to you guys, everything that you're doing starts with a strategy, okay? And so with that strategy, this is just kind of a general way to think about how you can approach that strategy. And I'm gonna write it on the board as well, if it's a little hard to see.
Use the light.
Oh, right here.
No, the other one.
Down.
The switch.
Oh, I'm making it more complicated. Just so fancy. Okay. So, all right. So things to think about when it comes to strategy. All right. When you're working on a strategy for how you're thinking about how am I going to approach, number one, you could think about it social media overall, but you could think about how am I going to approach even launching any kind of Facebook campaign. One of the first things you need to do is think about, why am I doing this? All right, so on there it says, why am I doing social media? But you might ask, why do I want to run this ad campaign? So why am I running this campaign? What is the true objective that I want to get out of it? And you guys, it might not necessarily be that it turns into a listing appointment right away or a buyer consultation right away. Sometimes you just want to look for ways to get people in your pipeline and then nurture those leads until they're ready for whatever it is that you're going to offer to them. And there are many ways you can come up with offers. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today about how you build a funnel and how you create lead magnets. And these are things that you do to draw people in, to get them interested in whatever it is you have to offer that you do through campaigns, okay? So first thing, you need to think about, why am I doing this? The other thing you need to think about is, what is your goals, okay? And when we come up with goals, you guys have probably heard that acronym, SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, timely, all those things, realistic. So you want to think about goals from that standpoint. And you also, as I have up here, KPIs. Anyone know what KPI stands for? Shout it out if you know it.
Key performance indicators.
Key performance indicators. Okay. So when you're developing goals for whatever ad campaign you're running, you need to have what we call KPIs attached to those goals, okay? So KPIs are key performance indicators. And the way to think about these key performance indicators is that they need to be things that you can measure, okay? So things that you could measure in an ad campaign. You could measure clicks coming to your website. You could measure how many of those clicks people actually fill out a form and then it becomes a lead in your pipeline. You could measure how many of those leads you actually are able to get on the telephone or sit down with face to face, and then how many of those eventually convert into a new client. So KPIs need to be specific and measurable and quantifiable. And there are things that you need to have in place that you need to be paying attention to beyond launching an ad campaign that'll help you understand, is what I'm doing effective or not, okay? So ways you could measure that, and we'll walk through this because I'm going to go into the Facebook dashboard and show you everything I'm talking about after we talk about strategy, okay? But ways you would measure that would be, Facebook always gives you things like an insights report, okay? So if you already have a fan page, you already have access to a Facebook insights report, okay? Facebook also gives you what we call audience data, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. It gives you details about the demographics of who likes your page itself. You get detailed demographics about who's clicking on your ad campaigns. You also, if you're going into the audience section, get other information, like what are some of the other fan pages that people who like your page like as well. And so that's valuable information that can help you when you want to get more strategic with your targeting, okay? Other ways you can measure your KPIs. Do any of you have your websites linked to something called Google Analytics? Yeah, okay. So you can get data through Google Analytics outside of Facebook. That's going to tell you a lot about what people are doing on your website once they're there, how they found your website. There's a lot you can do with Google Analytics. Very, very powerful. Okay. And then you have the actual ad reports that you can pull that will tell you things like, how much did my ad cost per click? How much am I spending per click? How much am I spending per result? So you get your ads report that tells you that, okay? If you have what's called Facebook Pixels set up, you'll get even more data, okay? So I'm gonna show you guys those things today. If those are unfamiliar concepts to you, make sure you're writing them down, because we only have 3 hours today, so if we don't cover it as deeply as you would like it covered, if this is very new for you, make sure you go back and Google's your best friend and Google it, or find a video on YouTube that explains it to you a little bit more, okay? Or tell Robin and James to just invite me back. All right, so those are some things to keep in mind when it comes to coming up with KPIs, all right? So that's gonna be part of your strategy. What are the real things that I can measure? How many leads? And what's realistic based on maybe the budget that I have in place that I could expect? Is $100 going to get me 100 leads per month? Is that realistic? You really need to start thinking about those things. So budget is at the end when you're looking at measurement, but that's part of what you want to look at as well. So objectives and goals, number 1, okay? Number 2, target audience, okay? So defining your target audience needs to be part of your strategy, all right? Now, if you're defining your target audience, and we'll walk through in Facebook ads, you do have targeting options. The nice thing about Facebook ad targeting options is a lot of it's based on interest, which makes it very different than Google AdWords. So in a few weeks when we do the Google AdWords training, the way we talk about targeting in AdWords is going to be very different than targeting in Facebook. So that's why a lot of businesses run campaigns on both platforms, because you attract people different ways. I like to think of Facebook as a disruptive type marketing, because when people see your ad, they probably weren't looking for real estate at that moment. They probably weren't looking for a home at that moment, but they may be interested or in the process of selling a home or interested in buying a home when your ad appears. So it's kind of like a disruption that appears in their news feed, their messenger app, wherever they are at that moment when that ad pops up on Facebook, okay? But you need to be able to identify who those customers are beyond what's available to you in Facebook targeting. You need to have a clear picture before you even go into Facebook to run your ad campaign of who your customer is, okay? So do any of you have like a clear, this is my customer, this is what they look like in terms of demographics or the area they live in? Do you have certain areas you're farming? Things like that? Okay, somewhat. So that's something we're gonna, through that worksheet, we're gonna iron that out a little bit more. Now I know in a sense y'all kind of compete with each other, so we won't share everyone's secrets, but you wanna keep that in mind, that you wanna be very clear before you launch that ad campaign. You need to know who your customers are. And you need to know more about them than demographics. It's nice to know what zip codes you're gonna focus on, what neighborhoods you're gonna farm. That's awesome. It's nice to know if it's men or women or both. It's nice to know their age. But what other triggers can you know? For example, if your market is first-time home buyers, what do you know about first-time home buyers that fit into a certain age group? Where do they consume social media the most? Are they on Facebook at all? Or are they on Instagram or Snapchat or somewhere else? So having that picture and understanding that. What kinds of things are they into? Do they watch YouTube? If they do, what kind of channels? What kind of TV shows do they watch? Because when you're doing your targeting, it doesn't just have to be the targeting that looks for people buying a home. Your targeting should be based around other interests that these people have, in addition to the fact that they are interested in buying a home. So you really want to combine multiple factors together in some instances to get in front of the right people. So audience, knowing your audience before you launch that campaign and having a clear picture. And you may have more than one customer profile that you build, or we call them, in marketing, we call them buyer personas. You may have more than one buyer persona or customer profile built out. You might end up having 3 or 4. And each one of those audiences or customer profiles represents a slight difference in the type of buyer or seller that you're targeting. There's a huge difference between the habits and the behaviors of first-time home buyers versus luxury home buyers. And you've got to understand the differences of one versus another and how they think psychographically beyond the fact that luxury people have money, first-time home buyers, maybe they're just getting started, maybe not as much money, they're in a lower price range. You need to know more than that about them. You need to understand more about their habits, their interests, their triggers, their motivations, their potential objections. Those are all things you want to understand about them before you launch your ad campaign, okay? And how can you get that data? Survey people, research as much as you possibly can. If you already have a base of customers that fits into those profiles, do a survey. Or when you're talking to them, ask them those types of questions so you can understand more about them. And do it, again, to multiple customers or clients that you have so you're able to build out that profile. Any questions about that? Yes?
So when you're doing research, you're talking about just a casual conversation about how it is, like you said, if you know somebody who makes a lot of money and are considered luxury, so it's just a casual conversation.
Yeah.
What their home process is.
Exactly. If it's someone you know and you already have a rapport with them, let's assume. And let's just say, you know Joe, and your part of your goal is, hey, I want to start working in the luxury home bracket. I'm not there yet, but you know Joe and Samantha and Don and all of them own $400,000 plus houses, or in Atlanta, I don't even know if that's luxury anymore, maybe 600 if they're living in town, 600, 700,000, right? And at dinner, you're having a casual conversation. They already own homes. They're already in a neighborhood that you're interested in farming. Then maybe at dinner, you're having a casual conversation and asking them, what was the home buying process like for you? What was your experience like with your agent? What things bothered you about, working with that agent? That's going to help you uncover objections, things like that. It might start to give you an idea of what are going to be their trigger points. That way, when it is time to run an ad campaign and you're writing ad copy, you know exactly what the trigger points are that would get somebody interested in clicking on your ad and submitting on your form to become a lead in your database. Any other questions? Okay. Is this making sense so far? Okay. So, all right. So, identify your ideal customer or customers and then set up personas. And you could set up a persona. It could just be a one piece of paper that just identifies those things we just talked about. In fact, I think I have a slide on that just to give you guys an idea. So here's an example of things we want to think about when we're identifying buyer personas, okay? So we want to pay attention to, it's great, again, to know the demographic information, age, gender, job titles, what career they're in. That's nice. That's not hard to get. What we want to know is things like values and fears. What do they value? What things bother them? What's important to them when they're considering buying a home? What drives their decision-making process? You guys have probably worked with buyers who are sometimes hot, sometimes cold. Why is that the case? The more you can uncover that, the better it's going to be, number one, in trying to attract them in the first place to work with you. And then just beyond the whole ad process, just in how do I communicate with this person after that? Okay? Goals and challenges. What are their personal or career goals? What challenges impact them from achieving their goals? Where are they? How do they get information? How do they like to communicate? What type of media do they consume outside of social media? What magazines do they read? What newspapers do they read? What are they paying attention to? So those are all things you really want to uncover. And then there could be negative information as well, and just understanding other things about them too. So the more you can uncover some of that, again, that's coming up with a full picture that'll help you in the process. All right. So the other thing you want to do in strategy is you want to also have a clear idea of content. What kind of content are you actually going to be rolling out in your ad campaign? Now, for those of you who are already running campaigns on Facebook, you already know this. There's many different formats that you can run your ads in, okay? You've got the traditional image format you can do. You also have video format. You have what we call carousel style ads, so that's one of the swipeable type of ads. So there's a lot of different styles that you can use when you're actually publishing your ad campaign. Again, this goes back to figuring out what resonates best with the potential audience that you're interested in actually communicating with and actually becoming leads into your database, okay? So thinking about that, other things you also might want to pay attention to are, of course, what are my competitors doing? and learning from them or just watching them. And it doesn't even have to be, you know, quote unquote competitors. These could just be other businesses or brands or agents that you aspire to, that you like, and they don't have to be in this market. They could be in totally different markets. So when you go to family reunion or mega agent camp, any of those other types of events, and you're seeing what agents are doing in other cities, especially out in places like California and Colorado, where they're very, very advanced with their technology, it's a good idea to pay attention to what methods are they using in terms of how they're running campaigns, how they're reaching out to customers. Pay attention to their websites. And a lot of times, honestly, if they're running Facebook campaigns, a lot of times their ads will probably reappear to you in your Facebook feed if you're visiting their site enough. And then you'll start to get a feel for how does their marketing work? And you've got to get inquisitive at that point to understand what kind of content they're using and getting some ideas around that, okay? And then with content comes budget and resources. So again, am I gonna hire like a photographer? So we got a photographer back, am I gonna hire a photographer? That might be a consideration. Do you have the budget for that? If you want really realistic pictures or very branded photos that you're going to use in your campaign, are you going to use stock images? And if so, where are you getting your stock images from? And do you need a budget for that? Are you going to get out with your camera phone and take photos? Are you going to hire a graphic designer? Those are all considerations to make when it comes to content. So those are all things to think about. And then just finally, how are you going to measure activity? What tools? So we talked about some of those tools, Google Analytics, Facebook Insights, Facebook Ad Reports. All of those are things to think about when it comes to the measurement side of things. All right? So again, set goals. If you don't measure it, you can't improve it. So when you launch your campaign, that's nice, but you've got to have those goals set when you're running that campaign so you can know where to move on from there and look at how to optimize and improve upon your campaign. All right, so I'm gonna turn the light back on and I'm gonna have you guys pull out your worksheets because we're gonna start filling these worksheets in and then we can go into actually creating some campaigns. Few people came in. Let me make sure. Anyone else need a worksheet? Okay. All right. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, I'm going to give you a few minutes to start filling this in, and I'm going to walk you through on page 1 things that we want to think about when we're going into this strategy, okay? So first box, top left, what do we want people to know about our brand, okay? So I want you guys to go down the left column of this sheet, and I want you to answer the questions on the left column. What do I want people to know about my brand? And then 3 to 5 brands that you can think of. Again, they don't have to be here in Atlanta. Again, these could be agents, these could be just the big real estate companies, the big .coms that exist out there. Who's doing well in the industry? And try to think of people who, again, if you have a certain niche that you're focused on, who's in that niche that's doing really well. And if you're not sure, pull out your computer and take a look. Do a quick Google search and see who you can find. And then, who are you trying to reach? So it says list 2 to 3 audiences. So that goes back to us thinking about specifically audience or buyer personas. Start to think about who are those buyer personas. Now, you might not be able to carve out a full buyer persona today based on, again, if you need to do research or anything like that. But just think about, again, is it luxury market? Is it first-time home buyers? And if you know a little bit more than that about them, start writing that down. So I want to have you guys fill in the left side of your worksheet. I'm going to go around and check on you guys. But go ahead and start filling that in. I'm going to give you a few minutes to fill that in. And if anyone's willing to share, I'm going to ask you to share. If you're comfortable with partnering up with somebody, if you're on a team or you want to collaborate with anyone, you're welcome to do so. We give everyone about 1 to 2 more minutes. Does everyone have that left column filled in? Anyone need more time? Yeah, a little more time. Okay. Now, if you're finished and you want to get a head start, move to the right column and start going down that column and answering the questions there. What separates you from your competitors? What's your brand's tone or voice? Meaning, am I humorous? Am I a thought leader? How do you want people to feel when they see your ads, when they see your brand? How do you want them to feel? What's the perception you want people to have with you? That's the tone. What's the voice? Do I speak in third person? Do I speak in first person? Do I speak as a team? Do I speak as an individual agent? So think about those things. And then what social networks is your audience on? Because again, Facebook is great. A lot of people are on Facebook, but you could also think beyond Facebook. Are they on Instagram? Are they in other places? looks like everyone at least is most of the way done, if not all the way. So I'm gonna ask you guys to share. I'm not gonna ask everyone to share all their boxes. I'm just gonna kind of ask, so does anyone want to share just generally, what do you want people to know about your brand? Don't be afraid.
I'll share. I have a stealth page and I've had it for a few years and about 1,000 followers. And it's specific, very myopic to the condo market in Midtown. And I want to convey that I'm obviously the condo expert in Midtown.
Yep.
And that it's an easy, where I'm driving them to is easy search, free search, easy to see, be in the know, see things immediately, you know, don't miss these deals.
Gotcha. So you're kind of associating your brand with kind of the ease that people have and using the search function, condos, condo market, that thing specifically in a certain area. Okay. What about just overall, you guys want to shout out brands that you're paying attention to that you think are doing well? Zillow, big one, absolutely, yeah. You must. I see Mark Spain all the time. I don't know about y'all. He's everywhere. and again, that might depend on if your goal long term is to be like a Mark Spain. He's definitely everywhere. There's a lot of expansion teams in other states that are now coming into Georgia. See a lot of that. What's that? Realtor.com. Okay. But everyone came up with some things. I'm sorry. Redfin, yeah.
I mean, I can tell you how many buyers send me Redfin listings.
All the time.
They're using it as their window shopping and send stuff to me.
They're like the marketers, very big marketers.
Well, they did a good job, the consumer insights that they developed, and that's what we're working on at Keller Williams. So people have that level of data.
And that's what I mean when I say going back to understanding your own audience. That's part of what you're also doing with data within your business. There's the big picture data, the macro data that Keller Williams is going to give you, which is great, but you've got to also think about for your niche, what's the data that I have in front of me that I can use to make my marketing more effective. So there's some data you're going to get that's going to impact everyone, and that's great on a mass scale for Georgia or Atlanta market or whatever the case may be. But again, you want to try to narrow that to what you're focused on even more. Okay. What about voice? What voices do you guys feel like you feel like you might want to speak in or might be effective for your brand?
How do you define voice? What do you mean by voice?
So voice, so this goes back to voices. So when we think about just English class, English 101. So when we speak in voice, there's first person, there's third person. So there's either some brands that speak as I, or if they're, again, plural, then they say we and they say our. And then there are some brands that always refer to themselves in third person. And so how do you want to position yourself? And then within that, you might also decide, am I positioning when I'm advertising as an agent individually, or am I positioning as a team? And that's going to change the type of language you use as well when you're writing your ad copy. So that's voice. Great question. Okay. What about tone?
I said friendly, affable, and professional. Hey, y'all.
Yeah, there we go. Southern charm. There, yeah. There are some people who really play on that. So, I mean, that can work well.
I said objective in the know expert. And what I mean by that is not inserting too much opinion of a listing or of an article or of just, hey, this is some information that you might find useful.
Yep. That's a good one. I have a client in the financial industry. Objective is one of his words. Absolutely.
Professional tone, a sense of humor. Professional
sense of humor, yep. So it's a sense of humor, but it's not too far out there. It's a relatable sense of humor, but still clean. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right, so those are some things to think about when it comes to just this starting point of mapping your brand, okay? Now, we're going to come back to this worksheet. You can push it to the side for now. We're going to come back to it when we start talking about the messaging side of things, okay? First things, though, we're going to go ahead and start digging into the dashboard, Facebook, up here on the board. So if you've never seen the insides of what an ad campaign looks like, if you haven't officially launched one yet, let me backtrack for a second and say that you would start out. So here I'm logged in. So this is for me. I have more than one profile. This is not the real Sonja. This is Crystal, a ghost profile that I have on Facebook. And so if you're for the very first time going to be setting up a campaign, then typically when you're logged into your personal account, you would click the drop down arrow right here, and there's going to be an option that says create ads. Okay? Yes?
Can we turn the lights off?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And then if for some reason you don't have that option, you can actually go directly to Facebook's ad manager link, which is this link right here. So you could actually go to facebook.com/ads manager if you just want to get directly into your ads manager, but you need to be logged in to do that, okay? One other thing I'll mention to you guys, that you could also, let me log out for a second so you could just see what it looks like without me logged in. There is also what we call a Facebook Business Manager account that you can optionally set up. This is going to be ideal if you have more than one fan page that you're managing. Then you might want to consider setting up a Facebook Business Manager account. Or if you don't want your, like if you have people on your team, or if you have a marketing person who's helping run your campaigns and you don't want them getting to your ads that you have set up or anything like that through your personal account, because you want to keep your personal stuff private, then you could set up what's called Facebook Business Manager, and that kind of separates it out. So if you wanted to do that, you would just go to business.facebook.com, and then this allows you, and it says create account in the top right hand corner, that allows you to create a business manager account. And when you set up a business manager account, you go in, you claim your page as a business, not as Sonja or anything like that, and then your business owns the page. Okay, so that kind of separates church and state in a sense. So that's just something to keep in mind depending on how your team is structured or how you're growing your business. So let me log back in. So going back, when you have your campaigns set up, or if you're running campaigns, and you'll typically see a dashboard that looks something like this. And what I'm seeing here, and this is kind of a change that Facebook made maybe within the past year, they basically completely redesigned what this looks like. So if you've run ads before, but it's been a while, then this is going to be something, a totally new looking dashboard to you. So we have to the far, to your far left.
So you're not in Business Manager now?
I'm not in business.
Okay.
Well, I'm in both because
Okay.
I run multiple, so I have
Okay.
access
Gotcha.
through this to both. But at the moment, I am in my personal old account that I have some old campaigns on. So this is
they probably look the same.
they do look the same
Okay.
once you get to this part.
Gotcha.
So you'll be okay either way. The business manager settings will look totally different though, but this will look exactly the same for everybody. So once you're here, so here we have the campaigns tab, okay? And campaigns, let me explain a little something to you, okay? We've got campaigns, and then we have what are called ad sets, and then we have ads, okay? So it's kind of like there's 3 layers. When you're setting up a campaign in Facebook, there's kind of like 3 layers to it. And as kind of tedious as this might sound, it's actually really important to know how to set up your campaign properly, because this is going to impact how much you end up paying per click if you're setting your campaign up improperly, okay? So ideally, at the campaign level, let's just say we have one campaign that we're running, okay? So let's just say I'm launching a campaign, and I'm just launching this to first-time home buyers, okay? So that's going to be the name of my campaign that I'm setting up, all right? So that's campaign number 1. Under that campaign, typically, I might have multiple ad sets, okay? Now, the way you want to look at ad sets as different targeting themes, okay? You need to separate out your targeting based on things that kind of align with each other, okay? So what I mean by that is on one first-time home buyer campaign, I might be targeting people who live in 30308, who also have an interest in Zillow.com, Realtor.com, Redfin, and so on. And I might name that ad set Midtown, and then, to know they're first-time home buyers, maybe I just do ages 21 to 35 or something like that, okay? So that's how I also kind of make sure I'm focusing on possibly first-time home buyers. Okay, so in this ad set, I give it a name, first-time home buyers by realty site or something like
Have you
that.
had any issues with that age thing? So my ad got rejected recently for limiting the age. It was like a discriminatory thing. I got some message from Facebook. Have you had any issues with that?
Not on age, but I've gone through many campaigns where ads have gotten rejected because Facebook does have a strict policy on discriminatory things, health, things like that. I would say if it rejected your ad and it said it was because of age, that probably wasn't the single factor.
Okay.
There was probably in combination with something maybe that was said in the ad or that was portrayed in the image that caused them to reject it. So if you want to send me a screenshot, I'm happy to take a look.
And sometimes if you just reply back to them, they'll look at it and they're like, okay, this can be boosted or posted or whatever. You just have to reply, because that happens a lot with ours.
Okay.
You just argue it.
Is it an age thing? Does it say something about age parameter?
It has before, but not for every single one.
There is a place formally that you can go to when you have that problem. There's a link on Facebook where you could just dispute if they reject your ad. It's like a link you can click that lets you, here we go, appeal disapproved ad. Right here, it's a long link, so feel free to shoot me an email or something. But if you Google search maybe Facebook appeal a disapproved ad, or search this in their help center. Yeah, what'll happen is when that ad if you have an ad that's currently been disapproved, it'll pop up on this page, and then you click it and you tell it, I want you to re-review this ad, basically. So you could do that too. Great question. All right, so ad sets. All right, so we have one ad set. The targeting is Midtown, 21 to 35, people who like Zillow, Realtor, things like that, okay? Now, our next ad set might be something totally different. We could still do these same people who are 21 to 35. We still might do 30308, but their interests, this would be totally different and follow a different theme or thought process than this ad set. And that's what starts to separate ad sets one from the other. So targeting things, what could we target if we were running an ad campaign of first-time homebuyers? What are some other, anyone have any other ideas? What else could we target?
Recently married.
Recently married, yep. There's a recently married option, and I'll show you guys the options if you haven't seen some of them. There's a recently married.
Career,
One in the oven.
promotion.
Promotion. So lifestyle, these are all lifestyle things. So we could call this one first time home buyers lifestyle or something like that. And everything that's in this ad set is going to be related to lifestyle factors, okay? And then same thing, in our third ad set, we could still do 21 to 35, 30308, and maybe this time we do it based on income factors. So by income. So again, these have three totally unrelated groupings of things going on in terms of how we're choosing to target them, which is why we break them out into separate ad sets, okay? And then under each ad set, my recommendation is that you run at least 3 ads under each ad set, at least when you first launch your campaign.
Wait, say that one more time.
So you got campaigns, ad sets, and then under each individual ad set, my recommendation is to run at least 3 ads under each ad set. So you would have a total, in this case, of 9 ads.
Okay, when you say 3, you mean 3 different ads?
3 different ads. So if I go, let me give you a visual.
Okay.
Let me give you a visual. So I'm going to go into a real campaign here. Okay, so let's just say
So you're basically just wording it a little differently, different like
you could word it
pictures
differently,
that
the
might
picture
attract
could be
different-
different, exactly. So you want to have, it's almost like you're testing them against each other because you want to see which one is going to be more effective that you keep running when you get into that optimization process of your campaign, okay? So in this case, this one is, and let me find a better one, slightly better, here we go. All right, so in this case, so we're looking at the campaign I just clicked on says sorry, it's hard to read, so I'm going to read it for you. So I'm under the campaign tab. It says one selected at the top, that little gray kind of circle there or whatever. And then down here, I'm clicking on what says Stone Cottage website clicks, okay? So that's the name of our campaign. Now we titled that campaign because you could run campaigns to get page likes, you could run video campaigns. We just wanted to remember that this one is about getting people to the website. So we named it website clicks, okay? Then if I click on that, it takes me in up here to the ad sets tab, okay? Now under the ad sets tab, in this one we have 2 ad sets that we're running, okay? So one ad set was labeled Stone Cottage Women, 35 to 55, JCPenney, that was part of the targeting. And then another one was Stone Cottage Women, 35 to 55, Overstock, okay? And so that separated the targeting for us in this campaign. So that's our ad sets. Now, if I go under the Overstock ad set, in this case, because this one's been optimized, there's just one ad there, but this is where you want to have, starting out, about 3 ads to start with, okay? And the reason why, again, is you want to have maybe variations in the images that you're showing under that ad set. You might have slight variations to your ad copy as well. That way, when your campaign launches, it's easy for you to start seeing which ad is the winner, which one is doing really well, and not only is it getting clicks, but we're actually getting some leads over to our website as a result of that. And lead is whatever you guys define it to be based on your goal. Is it filling out a form just to join your email list? Is it requesting a CMA? Is it filling out some other type of form? Is it starting a home search? Is it downloading an ebook? Whatever goal you have in mind, that's what you define as a conversion, and that's what you want to be paying attention to when you run this campaign. Now, on the Facebook side, when we talk about measurement a little bit, Facebook's only going to tell you really clicks over to your website, which is why some of those other tools I mentioned to you guys, like Google Analytics and things like that, and then depending on what platform your website is built on, because there's so many of them out there, a lot of those will measure it for you. That's how you're gonna know if it converted or not. And a lot of times, where did it come from? Did it come from Facebook? Did it come from Google? Did it come from, wherever else you have marketing going? That way you know the difference of where that lead came from, okay? Make sense? Any other questions? Okay. So that's the basic setup. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this was a very elementary
you guys ask away.
question. So existing campaigns that I'm going, I can go back in and then implement this setup, correct?
You can. Now, here's my recommendation on existing campaigns. If you have an existing campaign that honestly it just hasn't been performing well, you're better off to scrap it and start over with an entirely new campaign versus trying to create new ads or ad sets under a campaign that's failing. And the reason why is it's almost like it carries the history of the failure with it. So it's almost better to just remove that campaign altogether and start a new one from scratch if you have one that just hasn't historically been performing well. Okay. Now, for those of you who are running ads, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about the optimization side. So if you have campaigns that are running already, then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look at May as a timeline, last month. Oops, yeah, there we go. Okay, and look at this campaign that was running back in May, all right? So this campaign, it says Poppy and Fritz, and then in this campaign, there's 2 ad sets. So in this one, and I'll tell you guys what this is. This is a linens brand. They sell linens online, okay? And so in one case, one of their targeting is set up, okay? And they're targeting basically interest based on magazines that people read. Again, going back to those buyer personas and understanding their customers. So these are set up around magazines they read, or again, home and garden kind of stuff that people are into, who again might be interested in home decorating and have the ability to buy linens for their home. So there's 2 different ad sets set up around that. Now, when I'm optimizing a campaign, well, first of all, notice 2 things. If I look at the May results, There's one, this little blue button, one is turned on, and then there's one with a gray button, one is turned off. So for those of you who are already running campaigns, when you start going in and checking on your campaigns and you see an ad set that's not performing well, maybe a week or two in, and maybe you make some adjustments to it and it's still just not doing well, or clearly there's another ad set clearly dominating, clearly getting a lot of clicks, and again, you're seeing leads as a result of that, turn the other one off. That's not serving you. That's part of the optimization process. So that's a good thing to do, all right? So that's why we see one turned on, one turned off. And then same thing, when I click and I go to the ads level, so I'm under the ad sets now. Now I'm in the ads tab under one of those ad sets, then the same thing. There ended up being, if I look at results up here at the top, there's two that were clearly dominating. One has 221 page likes it got, another has 258 page likes it got. So these were clearly two dominant. It could be due to the visual, it could be due to the copy. Those are things you need to go back and start comparing in your campaign. And when you see you have that success, that's what you take and begin to duplicate so that you're able to duplicate your success. Now, if you're the agent doing that, and then let's say you have a marketing person and you launch the campaign yourself as the agent, but you have a marketing person or a virtual assistant, this is what you give them. And you explain this process to them so they understand how to keep running your campaign effectively to get you good results.
I'm guessing you do this on a billable basis. You could be that outsourced person.
I do, but I mean, yeah. So yes, short answer, yes. But again, I also teach a lot of people how to do this stuff too, and this is part of teaching. And if I'm teaching someone how to do it, so if you are in a position where you're like, look, I'm going to do this myself, that's good. But when I teach assistants or interns or other people how to do this stuff, this is what I show them, and I record it. I always record it. That way they don't have to come to me asking a ton of questions. Go back and watch that video, and then think about it, and then ask me your questions after you watch the video. So those are just some things to think about from a organizational business owner standpoint, okay? So, all right. So those are some things to keep in mind, you guys, when you're looking at the optimization process and just thinking about, again, how do we want to properly set up an ad campaign? So we said campaigns, right? And then under campaigns, we might have one or two ad sets, maybe three. And then under ad sets, how many ads do we need to start with? Three, at least three, starting out. Then we want to get better, and then we want to look at it a week or two in, and we need to be monitoring our campaign. These campaigns cannot run themselves. We need to monitor them, okay? All right. So that's part of what we want to do in the initial setup, okay? Next thing we want to do, let's go into actually creating a campaign, okay? If you want to take out your laptop at this time and walk through with me, if you're logged in, let's walk through it together. If not, no big deal. I'll walk through it on the screen. Okay. All right, so remember, we want to log into Ads Manager first. Now, if you've never launched an ad campaign, and this is your first time as you're pulling out your computer today, it is going to prompt you to set up your ads account for the first time first. So just know that if you haven't done it before, it's going to prompt you before you even really get to all of this. It might even ask you for your credit card, but don't worry. As long as you pause your ads, you're not getting billed for anything, okay? So we're just going to go through a setup process. So here, I'm going to click on Create Ad, all right? So the green button, I'm going to back up one more time just so you see that one more time. So green button, far left of your screen, you're going to see that plus create button over here, all right? And then it's going to ask you, what's your marketing objective, okay? So this kind of goes back to, this needs to match up with that goal that you worked out on your strategy. What's your goal? This needs to kind of match up with that. Am I trying to get people to watch a video because I want to just focus on branding myself and brand awareness? Do I want to focus on getting people over to my website? Do I just want to build up likes to my page? That could be very valuable too. So what are some of the things that I want to do? There's a lot of options here. I'm going to run down them with you really quick, high level, so you know what these options are, okay? Number one, over here to the left, where it says awareness, you have two options, brand awareness and reach. I'm going to be very honest with you. I do not use that column because it doesn't serve any of my clients. It doesn't make them money. And most of us are in the business of making money at some point through our ad campaigns, okay? So I'm going to be honest with you, I don't use that. If you chose to use that section, it's exactly what it says. It's about awareness. It's not about getting clicks to your website. You're going to be charged differently, in many cases charged more than you would normally pay if you ran a simple traffic campaign.
That's like a political candidate. Those would be perfect because there's really not a call to action.
Awareness.
You're just making it.
Yeah, they just want to spread the word to their constituents.
Elections are coming. This is who to vote for.
Exactly. Yeah. So for what you guys are doing, in my opinion, it probably wouldn't serve you. So stay away from that column. All right. Then we have the middle column. This is probably going to be the playground for most of you when you first start running ad campaigns. Okay. So most effective type, if you don't walk away with anything else today, is going to be number one, traffic. Running a simple traffic ad. Okay. So traffic ads are designed to do just that. Send traffic over to your company website. So whatever website you have, and that could be, again, multiple, whatever URLs you want to put. If you have other marketing websites or niche websites, whatever, do whatever you want. You could do it all in the traffic section with your campaign, okay? So that's going to be traffic. Then you have engagement. Now, under engagement, engagement's a little tricky because you have a subset of options under engagement. So under engagement, you have these three little sub-tabs, 1, 2, 3, that you can choose from. You've got post engagement. Now, how many of you have ever boosted a post? Anyone, or you've seen the button boost post on your fan page? Post engagement and boost post are the same thing, okay? When it's on your fan page and you click boost post, I like to say it's like a shortcut. When you do it from here, it just has a longer list of targeting options that you can choose from when you're setting it up. But post engagement and boost post are one and the same. What you're doing essentially is taking a post that you previously put up on your page and you're just boosting it or promoting it to get the post more visibility. And it just depends on what you said in that post, the outcome you'll get. So if the post was just about awareness, that's all you're going to get. If the post had a link in it to your website, you might get some clicks to your website. Just depends on what you said in that actual post itself, okay? Now, one little note, Facebook guidelines. Facebook does talk, we kind of talked a little bit about ads that get rejected. So Facebook doesn't like it when you have a picture up with too many words in it, okay? It's not necessarily that they'll reject your ad, they just won't show it as much. So they might let you get away with it, but if you have too many words overlaid on an image in the ad that you're running, then chances are your ad's not going to be seen as much as it could, especially against your competitors. So Facebook's general rule is don't have more than 20% of text in the image of your boosted post or your ad, okay? They like you to put text in the place where text belongs above the image in the ad, okay? So no more than 20%. There's a tool you can use, and what I'll do is make sure I send James kind of like a list of links for some of this stuff I'm mentioning, and I'll make sure I include that on the list. So I'll put that, how do you appeal a disapproved ad, 20% test, and if you're not sure, do I have too much text in my ad or not, you upload your image into this tool and it'll tell you. Facebook is going to show your ad, you're good, you're green, or medium. You know, we'll let you get by, but we're probably not going to show your ad that much, or just low. We're not really going to show your ad. It'll get approved, and then you'll wonder why your campaign isn't doing well. So just something else to keep in mind, okay? Post engagement. Then we have page likes, okay? So page likes that's how you get likes to your page. Facebook, ever since they went public, they make it a little tricky, right? When you're posting things on your fan page, it doesn't get in front of as many people as it used to. If you've been in this game a while, you know that. That's probably the case. So if you have a newer fan page and you're wondering, man, I got 100 fans, but it seems like no one's interacting with my post, that's because only 3 to 8% of your fans will actually see your post anytime you're posting. Because Facebook right now, and they always change their algorithms, but right now they prioritize family photos and the warm and fuzzy stuff being in the newsfeed right now, not business stuff, okay? So What they did was they created boosted post and post engagement as a way for you to get your post in front of more people. They invented page likes again as a way to get your entire page in front of more people. So you can grow your page organically, and if you want to grow beyond that to people you don't know for that brand awareness factor, if that's part of your big vision as a real estate agent, then it's perfectly acceptable. Big brands do it. There's nothing wrong with running a campaign for page likes, okay? Doing it here. But don't buy page likes from a third party. Don't do that, okay? Because that will mess up your page. So sometimes advertisers will put things out and will say, hey, buy 1,000 fans for $50. Never do that, because they're usually fake accounts, okay? So that's number 2. And then the last one, event responses. If you're doing an event, you can launch a campaign on Facebook to run for event responses. In my opinion, it's great for getting generating a buzz about your event, but people on Facebook who RSVP for events rarely show up. You might expect a 20, maybe 30% show rate, so it's great for generating buzz, but not so great for getting really people in seats, okay? App installs, we don't need to worry about that. Video views, that's another option. So with video views, this is going to be if you're running a campaign, again, about awareness, or if there's a call to action even in the video, you could run a video views campaign, okay? Lead generation, this is a newer option. They just rolled this out within the past, I'd say 18 months. Lead generation is, rather than sending someone to your website to fill out a form and become a lead, they fill out the form right within Facebook. They never leave Facebook to fill out that form. So if you have, so this isn't going to be the type of campaign you run where you're trying to get someone into your search. You need to still send them to your website for that. But if you have free content that you're giving away, and that, again, that could be still a CMA or something like that, and maybe you say sign up, we'll send it to you within 24 hours or something like that, then those are things you could do under lead generation as an ad option. This will sync up with, if you use any kind of CRM tools like MailChimp or Constant Contact, this will sync up with those. That way, if you do collect people actually fill out the form through Facebook, it'll automatically go over to MailChimp or wherever else. And if you don't have any of that, you just download it into a spreadsheet, okay? And then you can manually upload it. Messages, also newer, rolled out within the past 6 to 8 months. You can now, how many of you use the Messenger app on Facebook? Okay, so chances are if you're using it, my guess is, again, going back to doing your audience research, your audience probably is too. So you can run ads that appear in Messenger, in the Messenger app. So this is going to be more so mobile ads, but we know.
I'd be so annoyed.
You get irritated by it?
Oh yeah, I've never seen them before in Messenger, but yeah.
Yes.
That'd be
well, they blend in, honestly. Honestly, actually Better Homes and Gardens is constantly in mine, but it doesn't bother me because it doesn't really mess with my messaging much. But
cool.
Again, that's always perception, how you want your brand perceived, if you think it's a right fit, if it's something you want to test out. So it is an option now if you wanted to have ads in Messenger. If you run a Messenger campaign, the other thing about it is the whole purpose behind that type of campaign specifically is to get people talking to you over Messenger. So the initial point of contact isn't going to be them going to your website, it's going to be them responding to something that you put in Messenger. And so you need to be prepared to carry on that conversation in Messenger initially. Now, Messenger's not a bad thing, you guys. Message apps like WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger have about a 90% open rate. That's compared to about a 20% email open rate. So it can be very valuable, even if you're not doing it through Facebook ads. Messenger apps are kind of where one of the many trends where marketing is going next when we think about digital marketing. So take it into account in some way, shape, or form. And then this last column over here, conversions, catalog sales, store visits. So this section gets a little bit tricky, all right? But what I will say about the conversions tab, there is a specific tool for real estate set up in the conversions tag and the catalog section. It would require the help of a developer if you wanted to take advantage of that tool, but you could sync up your listing inventory with Facebook so that listings actually get shown to people from your website in Facebook as an ad, the actual listing itself. You do need to get with a third-party developer. There is a process that you need to go through to do that. When I go up here to the top left-hand menu and I click on that Ads Manager and then go down here where it says All Tools, it expands out the full menu for Ads Manager. And if you decide that you want to do that, I think you're going to start at catalogs. And you're going to actually sync up your inventory to start. So you would start with this create catalog button, and you would actually sync your listing inventory. So a little bit advanced, but that's an option if you wanted to go through that process. So those are some things to think about. Another thing is, how many of you have ever heard of the term remarketing or retargeting? Anyone ever heard of that?
Yes.
A few of you? Okay. So for those of you, if you haven't heard of the term, has everyone shopped on Amazon before at some point, or at least been on Amazon?
Yes.
Right? We've all been on Amazon, right? So let's say you go on Amazon, you look at a pair of shoes, and then you go back over to Facebook, and that pair of shoes pops up. That is remarketing, okay? So Facebook allows you to put what's called a Facebook pixel. You can link it with your website. If you link Facebook pixel with your website, it gives you the ability to run ad campaigns that are designed specifically to show up to people who have engaged with your website before. So it's a more narrow, targeted campaign. It can be very effective because now you're marketing to an audience who's already familiar with your brand. So the starting point for that would be to set up Facebook Pixel, which when I go back to my expanded menu up here, all tools, then there's going to be an option for pixels under measure and report, pixels, and then I'm going to go over here, and there's going to be a special code that I get. Again, I need to send this to my developer, unless you're a little techie, and you can do this on your own as well. And then I need to make sure that this is set up on my website. And then all it's doing, it's not tracking people per se, it's tracking things like IP addresses and cookies on their browser, so it knows what web pages on your website they're visiting, okay? So remarketing, another option to look into. So those are your primary ad types. So what you want to get down to is, what type of ad am I going to run? So I'm just going to walk you guys through the most basic, which is a traffic ad.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, you can.
So you said traffic was your first under consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Traffic was your number one. What's your number two on that list?
Oh, well, no, that always depends. Traffic, I say for most of you guys, that's a good starting point.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Now, anything beyond that, that
After
goes down to your strategy. That goes down to what are you trying to accomplish, depending on what your goals are.
What's the difference between traffic and lead gen?
Lead gen is it's going to be a form. It's not going to send people to your website. They're going to fill out a form right within Facebook. They're not going to leave Facebook to submit their name, email address, whatever else you're collecting.
And have you seen metrics that's more effective in conversion than just traffic?
Not yet. I say it's still relatively new. It can even cost a little bit more in some instances, but it could in some instances yield you a better quality lead in some instances, because when you run traffic, you're just sending people to your website, and depending on where you send people, which is kind of another part of this process, do I send people to a landing page that has no navigation on it? Or do I send people to my home page? Or do I send them to a specific maybe zip code to look at homes? Depending on where you send them, you don't know if they're really going to convert once they get on your site. Versus the lead generation, if they clicked on it and they start filling out that form and never leave Facebook, they're going to submit. So sometimes the quality could be a little better.
I can see that.
Yeah. But traffic, like I said, for most of you, traffic's going to be a good starting point. So here, if I start rolling into the process, so let's say traffic, that's the campaign I'm setting up, okay? Now I'm at the ad set level. And up at the very top, it's saying ad set name. And even look over here to the left, it walks you through it, what we just talked about, that structure. So over here we have the campaign. So the objective is traffic, and the name of the campaign I gave it is traffic. Then we're under ad set, and we're creating our very first ad set. The name you give it, just make it something easy for you to identify later. So it could be whatever you want it to be. I like to label it by usually what cities or states or zip codes, age group, things like that, or interests that I'm targeting, so it's easier for me to identify it later. And then we're trying to drive people to the website, so I would leave that selected. We're not going to talk about offers. That doesn't really apply to you guys. And then right here, we have a few options for how we begin to do our targeting, okay? So when it comes to targeting, We can target by locations. So here is set by default everyone in this location, or we could do it by people who live in a location, people who were recently in a location, or people traveling to a location. So you can change the default there depending on, again, what's the objective. Maybe if you run a relocation campaign, maybe you want to adjust that. Maybe you intentionally want to target people in other cities who are moving to Atlanta or who work for certain companies who are moving to Atlanta, if that's your focus. If it were, hey, I'm a relocation agent specialist. So those are some things to think
And
about.
we just change it right in that box, right?
You could change it right here in this box, yep. And then right here, you start selecting. Now with this, you know, it's at the country level, but you can do it based on zip code, city, and then a radius up to 50 miles around whatever cities you're targeting. So usually it goes from 10 to 50 miles. So you can make your adjustments right there depending. So again, if you want to follow along, you can, and kind of play around with it. That way you get a feel for it on your computer. Age, totally up to you. Generally speaking, of course, not that any of you would target 13-year-olds, but keep them, when we talk about age, keep your campaign set to 18 and up, generally speaking. That way, that'll decrease the chance of them saying anything about age. Gender. Again, if your ad copy is speaking to women, then maybe you specifically target women or men or both. So it just depends on how you want to angle that campaign and then the ad copy. It's totally acceptable to do that in your copy. If you're targeting women, speak to them in your copy. Speak to them based on the type of image that you select. Make those decisions too as you're setting it up, all right? I always, right here, it says languages. I always type in English because I just don't want by mistake, even though I might be targeting people here in the US or in certain zip codes and assume they speak English, they don't. So I always put English here just as a default, okay? Now, when we get to targeting, here we have some options. One, include people who match at least one of the following. Your targeting in Facebook is going to be based on demographics, interests, and behaviors, okay? So let's go back to that Zillow we said earlier. So if I'm doing Zillow targeting, I type it in and it pops up, and then I hover over, and it also says to the far right interest, okay? Now, pay attention to what's on the far right, because let's just say I was targeting people who like Target. Well, there's Target Corporation interest, and then there's Target employers. And there's a huge difference between me targeting people who work for Target versus people who are interested in Target. So you always want to pay attention to that right-hand side to make sure that you're aligning it with interests, not employers, unless you're specifically targeting people who work for Target or work for Coca-Cola or something like that. So make sure you're always paying attention to that with your targeting. Another thing you can do with your targeting, so let's say we're going to do Zillow. Okay, now let's say let's do something a little unique. So we had two separate ad sets right here where we broke out Zillow. But let's just say we want to apply a condition to Zillow, people who like Zillow. So let's do Zillow, and then right here where it says narrow audience, I could also do first-time home buyers right there and have an ad set just for people who like Zillow and who are first-time home buyers. That says this will no longer be
narrow
available.
your audience?
What's that?
How did you narrow your audience?
So right after I put in something in the Zillow, so you need to put something in here first. And then after you put something in there, you'll have an option to click narrow audience. And when you click narrow audience, it says, and must also match at least one of the following. And that's when you can make your targeting conditional.
How did Facebook know that they're interested in Zillow?
Because
they don't list it as an interest.
Yeah, but it's monitoring pages that you interact with, all these Facebook,
Okay.
Google, all of them, cookies, IP addresses. They're
And then
paying attention.
First-time
to
home
targeting.
buyer. I mean, how do they know that?
Yeah. Now, some of that data, and it tells you actually in here, some of that data is third-party data. One of the companies they use is a company called Axiom, and within their database, they combine self-reported data with market research data. So sometimes it's a combination of things. So that's how it starts to define based on your targeting criteria. So that's a little way beyond just having your basic targeting up here. You can get a little bit more narrow down here based on that. Or if you want to make sure you exclude people. So for example, I have a client who's a fitness trainer, and he has an online fitness product. And he was targeting people in his campaign who like yoga and working out and HIIT workouts and things like that. But he wanted to make sure his ad didn't get in front of other trainers. So what he did was did an exclude and looked up personal trainer to make sure he's not spending his money and clicks on personal trainers trying to see what's his ad say and what's on his landing page. So that's another thing you can think about doing when you're setting up your targeting, okay?
On the right side of the column, would it say occupation or something?
Yeah, it'll say employers.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, that also is dependent upon how many people on Facebook in that zip code he targeted reported themselves as a personal trainer. So it will depend on that. Another thing you want to pay attention to over here is this bar, okay? Now, this little bar is like a little meter. And the meter, if it's too far to the left, says your audience is very specific. And if it's very far to the right, it says your audience is very broad. My recommendation is to be somewhere either right where we are to the middle to maybe just a little bit over to the left. If you're too specific and you're in that red section, what usually ends up happening is your ad might not get shown as much because your audience is maybe too narrow. Or even if it does get shown a lot, usually be prepared because you're going to pay a higher cost per click because you're trying to reach a more valuable audience. So try to keep, if you're running your first campaign and you're not ready to invest your budget that way yet and it's budget sensitive, try to stay in the little green area in that arch. That way you're not too specific and you're not too broad. You don't want to be in the yellow section too broad either because it might be cheap, but you're also, again, the quality of the leads that come in might not be that great because you're too broad in your campaign. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. And then it'll give you estimated daily results, link clicks, things like that. That'll change.
My audience was unavailable. Audience definition is unavailable.
Yep, so it'll do that sometimes too. That might depend on the combinations. It might just simply be saying, look, we just can't find what you're looking for, and then you might have to go back to the drawing board. Yeah. So that again, and that's why that goes back to why you guys, the targeting I was stressing to you, kind of have an idea of what your targeting might be before. That way when you go in the setup process, you don't kind of, and we're going through this in this class, but really when you get down to doing this, you want your time, you want to do this efficiently. You don't want to have to say, couldn't launch it today because the targeting I want just isn't there. You want to have a clear idea or multiple targeting options already in mind that you put into your strategy. That way when you go to actually do the work, you can launch your campaign and you don't have to run into a lot of challenges and you're using your time more wisely. You guys are busy people, so we want to use our time efficiently as much as possible. Okay? So that's why we're doing this today, okay? All right, so other things we want to see. So you have an option, this little checkbox, expand interest when it may increase link clicks at a lower cost. So expand interest, this just gives you an option for Facebook to automatically kind of expand similar interest around what you're already targeting, basically. So that's another option checkbox if you want to. Now, I'm going to go back up over one little thing I skipped. This is for a little more advanced, especially for those of you already running campaigns. Custom audiences. Does anyone use this feature? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Marketing person, yes. So, custom audiences. Let's go over what that is really quick, okay? So custom audience, you can either get to it here, and it'll give you two options. Create a new custom audience or lookalike audience, or another place you can go to set up your custom audiences in advance of doing it while you're creating a campaign is to go to the top left corner to your ads manager menu and expand it all the way out. And when I'm over here under assets, audiences, then this is another place where I can create my audiences in advance. So they're already stored there before I even go to set up my campaign. Okay, now what are custom audiences? Custom audiences give you the ability to set up almost like niche audiences based on different activities. So let's walk through because there's many types you can create. So right here, there's a drop down in blue and it says create audience and then it says custom audience, okay? And then it pops up this list of options we can choose from. So let me tell you what these options mean. One is customer file, okay? What that means is if you have a really large email database, let's say you have a list of 5,000 or 10,000 email addresses, you could actually upload them through here into Facebook and then it will attempt to match the email address up with the user profile of that person on Facebook. And then you can run a campaign specifically to people on your email list, okay? So that's customer files. Another one is website traffic, okay? So this kind of goes back to that Facebook pixel I was telling you about earlier. You need to put that pixel install it on your website first, and then you'll be able to build what's called a website traffic audience. And what this does is this allows you to say, hey, I want to run a campaign and I want to run it to people who visited this neighborhood page on my website. And so I want to have an ad that's specific to Ackworth, Georgia, and my campaign is specifically going to say, looking to buy in Ackworth, Georgia, start here. And then I'm going to target this list that I have set up for everyone who was on my website within the past 30 days who was looking at Ackworth, Georgia. So that's just one example. You could have multiple lists based on different pages people have visited on your website. Let's say you have a listing section and you're like, look, I want to focus on being a listing agent. So now I have a list built of everyone who's been on the listing section page of my website, and I'm going to run a campaign that's specific to them. My image is going to be specific to speaking to those people. My ad copy is going to be specific to list your home with me, list your home with an agent who cares, list your home with a professional agent, or maybe it's a joke if humor is that tone, going back to tone and things that we talked about. So that's how you start tailoring your ad campaign and then pulling in those things we talked about strategically. Okay? App activity, that's just if people interacted with your app. We won't worry about that. Unless anyone has an app beyond the Keller Williams app. That one doesn't count. And then offline activity, this one requires a little bit more, because you've got to link this up. But this is if people did things like, actually, you talk to by phone. You have to upload some offline data in a spreadsheet to link that all up. So most people, that's a little bit more work. You might not use that just yet. And then engagement. And if you click on engagement, that takes you into a whole nother subset of options. These are people who have engaged with things like maybe if you post videos on your page all the time and you want to run an ad to people who have engaged with your videos at some point, you could have a list of people that you run an ad just for that. You could have people who fill that lead form. Maybe you ran a lead form ad in the past, and now you want to have an opportunity to possibly get in front of them again. Maybe you're upselling them, maybe you're offering a new resource to them, maybe you're sharing something new with them. Then you could have something built just for that through lead form. Full screen experience. Okay, we'll come back to that, but full screen experience, there's a way when you're creating your ad that you can actually have your ad dominate someone's entire mobile screen instead of just the little, when they're scrolling through the news feed, you could actually have it dominate their entire screen. So this would be for people who actually chose to let your ad dominate their full screen. Then you could have a list for that too.
Do they charge you more for that?
No. Nope, it's just an option. Create a list of people who have interacted with your page on Facebook. So it doesn't mean people who interact with your page, of course, doesn't mean they're necessarily clients. So maybe you're running a like campaign, and through that like campaign, they're interacting with your page, you're running boosted posts, people are liking. Then you could have, again, an ad campaign just geared toward those people too, okay? Create a list, Instagram business profile. Create a list of people who have interacted with your Instagram business profile. So you need to link, how many of you have a Instagram page? Okay, so you can link Instagram, your Instagram account into Facebook, and then if so, this opens up for you as well. Now you can target people who have interacted with you on Instagram, and you could target them on both Facebook and Instagram as well. And then the last one, event, we already kind of talked about this one. You can have ads to get people to come to your event, and then if they just RSVP'd for it or put they were interested and you want to run another campaign, then you could run it toward people who interacted with that event in some way, shape, or form. So a lot of options under custom audiences, which is a great, that could be, to answer your question, where's another place to go after traffic? Not all of these, but maybe one or two of these, because that's the thing, you guys, there's so many options. You don't want to try to do all of these at once. pick one or two that you can get really, really good at, plus maybe a page likes campaign. I throw that in as number 3. But pick one or two styles that you can get really, really good at and optimize your ads so they're running effectively and you've got good images and really good ad copy, and that's going to put you in a position where you're doing well, you're getting a good lead flow, and you do that before you consider branching out to doing a bunch of other things. So try to, I'm kind of a believer in focusing on depth instead of breadth, right? Don't try to spread yourself too thin. Go deep into a few things that you can do really, really well, and then you'll have better results. Like The One Thing, right? The One Thing, who read that book? I did. It's good. All right. So that's going to be custom audiences. Then there's what we call lookalike audiences, okay? Now this is another type of audience you can build that will help you with your targeting on Facebook. Lookalike audiences, I like these because what these do, after you've built up a pretty good fan base and you have a pretty good number of likes on your page, and then not only are these people who like my page, but they actually are either interested in real estate in general or the home buying process or something along those lines, or they bought a home or they're a repeat client throughout years, and you say, hey, I want to keep getting people to my page or interacting with my ads that look just like that group of 500 fans that I built up over a year, then you go to what we call lookalike ads. And it's exactly how it sounds. Facebook starts to create an audience for you and target people who look like your fan base. So those are lookalike ads, okay? So you could set that up as well, and that becomes an option when you're doing your targeting. So if I take this back and I go back over here to actually creating a campaign, then I could also, instead of all the targeting we talked about, Zillow and all that kind of stuff, I don't have to do any of that over here. If I do a custom audience, I could just do a lookalike audience, and that could be my only targeting. I could just do the audience that's focusing on my email list, and that could be the only audience. Or you could combine this with something else down here in the detailed targeting section.
Be a lookalike audience of another page that's not yours. Like, let's say there's a community interest page in Buckhead, and you want to target the people that like that page.
You cannot. Yeah. You can't do it on lookalike, but you could attempt to do it right here in the targeting section.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So you could do it there. Yeah. There used to be a way you could do it how you're saying. They took it away. Yeah. But you can still, if it's a large enough page, then they might have, they actually might pop up on this list under detailed targeting, and you could try it that way. And then another thing you can do on targeting, final thing on targeting, is connections. So here we have people who like your page, friends of people who like your page, or exclude people who like your page. So if, again, you say, look, I want this campaign to reach people who aren't connected to me at all, then you need to do an exclude. That way your ad isn't showing up to people who already like your page, and you're reaching an entirely new audience, okay? So key here, when you're going through this, make sure you're looking at all these options. And let me tell you, even if you already run ads on Facebook, they change this stuff all the time. I promise you there's probably been at least 5 changes to this menu within the past 3 to 4 months. It's constantly changing. So you always want to, don't get too comfortable. Make sure you're going through, checking through all this stuff when you're setting up your campaigns for the first time. Again, until you have one that's going really, really well, and then if that one starts to plateau, chances are you need to go back and reevaluate this part of it. Okay, your targeting and messaging are probably 2 of the most important things you can get right when you're running an ad campaign, honestly, even more than the image. Image is important, don't get me wrong, but targeting and messaging dominate over that when it comes to running these campaigns. That's why we're spending so much time on this stuff, okay? All right, so that's targeting. So I want to give you guys just a minute. I'm going to have you skip ahead on your worksheet, and I'm going to turn the light back up just for a second. And on the 3rd page of your worksheet where it says advertising on social media at the top, I want you to, there's a bunch of there's 3 columns here with spaces. And that space is for you to take a moment right now if you have your laptop out and start looking at some possible combinations of targeting that you can do. So go into the create ad and get to this page, or if you feel like I'm good there, go to custom audiences and start looking at custom audiences you could potentially set up and start writing down some ideas for how you could start to build out a custom campaign. And if you don't have your computer with you, just brainstorm, okay? And I'll come around, I'll check on you guys if you have questions. I'm gonna give you just a couple of minutes and we're gonna move to the next thing. Does anyone need help with anything?
There we go.
So this is, and then maybe let's try to start. Okay, I think it let you in. It still has a notice there, but I think you're in to where you can move through setting.
So,
You're in the right starting place. So that's where you would put your traffic. And then you can go down here and give it a name. Okay. And then, okay, so this is your very first time creating. So go ahead and click set up ad account. It's probably gonna make you fill in this stuff first.
I did that.
Oh, okay. Okay, there we go. So this is identical to mine.
Yeah.
What is this saying? It's saying
Mhm.
drive it to a website?
Correct. So generally, you want to leave that there how it is.
Okay.
These options would be if you want the campaign that you send people to an app,
Okay.
do
Right.
that, and then Messenger if you're trying to get them to Messenger for you to have a conversation.
Right.
But as a starting point, don't start with that. Start with just getting them to your
So I chose shouldn't be.
So probably once you start feeling like you're target,
Like this.
you'll probably start to change that.
So I said,
Yep.
I work two still. Yeah, you see like $2 like.
still unavailable.
Sometimes I ignore that stuff.
Okay, you're in Bryce.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what it,
Why it's doing that.
well, what
It's being a little weird.
What about you?
details are, and I filled in home and said, how long this lasting?
Yeah, so, okay. If it says that, honestly, they're getting rid of some stuff after that whole Cambridge Analytica scandal.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of some ways that people can be targeted based on that.
So what kind of thing do I think about this real estate?
What's your goal?
Sell more houses.
This is like this, I don't have time for one. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
Work both sides.
I don't know.
Okay, so if that's the goal, then you may want to think about targeting that's more listed.
Yeah.
So you could maybe do, this is, well, yeah, I didn't put out home values, that could be one option. You could do, tell me your, what's your, where you from? So anyway, I say all that to say, start thinking, one of the ways we ran a campaign before was we thought about things that my husband had in common potentially, where if he's turned into leads, he immediately has common ground with people to start creating relationships. So golf, you could put, but you might couple that and narrow, so where now you put golf, now get out of that box, just put over here, and or maybe you do a narrow audience, you combine that with some other factor related to home buying.
It's fun.
Zillow, golf, and then that's not too narrow. So it might be the right niche.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That is obvious doing that, but I would still kind of push through it and try to see.
It's fun to do it because then you get to compare everything. So seeing the metrics for it.
It's not working.
Okay, so I just leave it where it is. That way people who are connected to your page aren't see the ad.
Okay.
And that's
I mean, my personal page hasn't done
Now, this last placement, I'm gonna take everyone through the
Okay, that's
placements.
fine.
Yeah, so that's a good
So I was
starting
hoping to
point.
get
That get that cleared up. Yeah, it's doing something weird. Anyone else have any questions? Are we good? We're playing around with targeting? So I would say my thing is always no ideas are bad. So write it all down, and then you might have to the first few times you're trying to get the targeted right, play those around on that tool. You might be like, how can I narrow it down? Is that an option that's available to me? So keep it there, and then you'll kind of be able to do this. When I'm trying to replace it, is there something else that kind of captures that? Where it can start to put out of that.
I think those were really bad. Like, even him and his buddy would have, like, there. My brother. Maybe down the road.
But you still think about it. Think
I don't know.
about it, their habits beyond.
They're just hired like 10 agents on, and they're doing just pretty big. I'm just used to it. Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah. Which is why that's exact. So I'm just kind of like, it'll be like my own thing. I'll just stay for a while, and then get those well, he's gone. He's like, here on the way to Africa. Yeah. For the next 2.5 weeks. No, it's more going on. He's like, figure out how to get that dish together. Please. So that's a big kind of like yeah.
Question?
Yes. Your skew. Mm-hmm. That's exactly how I feel too. I'm like, we were just saying this is
And I mean, you still do that in other areas, but maybe not here.
Okay.
But you're this is a good start.
Okay. I mean, as a parent, first I have pictures of me before I think
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about earlier. Think about things that you like to do because then if they do come home and you start talking to them, that's a great opportunity to build and support them. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it looks so different. No, because usually we get this. Yeah, we can just read it. It's like to dig into, yeah, and like other
It's just so the people line, yeah. So it says this has been in Parliament. Can you read just the first few words? So this is the same.
Yeah, I see.
So what we're saying, under the neighbors.
Oh, listen, that's coming from the symbol. That's why it's because the symbol is similar to that's what the problem.
It's
Yeah, so that's why it's there. That's what
but they said it, they were able to fix it. Because I think we missed it. Because it says he changed it.
I'm not sure.
No.
A quick question. What does it mean that said I don't have a, yeah, it said I don't have a canvas?
Yeah, that might be, let's go back up.
Okay.
And it just could be what you selected somewhere up here. So, okay, so let's go look through your settings. Let's go
Okay.
down a little bit more. Okay, it's because this is checked right here. Full screen experience. So if you uncheck that, you'll probably, let's just double check everything else.
Okay.
Okay, and then just re-add your destination URL.
Well, I'm still adding that. I'm still
Okay,
trying to
gotcha.
figure out which one I put in there.
Okay, and then once you do that, that'll go ahead and that should be okay.
Now, should I put in the full screen experience in that other area you showed us how to get to?
So the thing about the full screen experience is you have to have an image that is full screen ready, meaning it's sized to dominate that
I
screen.
gotcha. So it's going to be a bigger
Mhm.
pixels and
And
all
then
that.
you upload a special image to make that happen.
Ah, okay.
Which
So
is
I need
what's
to
called
learn
a
about that.
canvas. Yeah, so it's kind of a separate thing.
Okay, gotcha. All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. For that reason.
So, sounds like everybody's at a point where you have a general idea on targeting. Oh, sorry. One more question. Yeah.
So is it 3 different columns or is it just?
No, you can play
general?
it however you want to do it, but this is good. Good starting point. Yeah, very specific. And then I would just couple that with things that are real estate related to make sure. And you could also just leave it like that and leave it open. You could do it either or. In fact, I would probably run 2 campaigns. One just doing this and leaving it open versus one that couples this with these ones like Zillow or something like that, just as an example. I would do both and test them against each other and see the difference between the leads that come in and if one outperforms the other.
Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, I got you.
Okay, so I told James and Robin I could do this for a whole day, but I know y'all don't have that kind of time. So we're gonna just go through this to the next part and roll. So, okay, so we walked through targeting, you guys. So one other thing, as you continue through setting up your ad, the next thing it's gonna take you to is placements, okay? Let me turn the light off again. Now, when it takes you to placements, it has automatic placements set up. I do not like that option. And the reason why is because you don't have complete control over where your ad appears when you select that. Even though Facebook likes to say it's recommended, my recommendation is click Edit Placements and then look at where it's potentially going to put your ad. I'm going to tell you my method. I uncheck Audience Network. And the reason why, let me tell you what the Audience Network is. Audience Network is websites outside of Facebook that your ad could appear on. Now it's still going to appear based on interest. The problem with that is you don't know what websites they are, and I personally don't like that. It also appears in apps. I don't want someone who's in the middle of playing Candy Crush accidentally clicking my ad, and then I get charged for it. So I don't like it. That's what my 2-year-old always says. I don't like it. Okay, so I unselect Audience Network so that I don't end up with that. In my experience of running ad campaigns for clients, when it is selected, that tends to dominate where you're getting clicks from, and then it lowers the quality when you do get clicks. It's a bunch of clicks you're getting, and you're not getting clicks over to your website, and people, again, filling out that start home search or whatever you're trying to get them to do. Not a good quality. So my method is to deselect that.
And that's in placements.
Placements, yep. So when you're under placements, my recommendation is to go to Edit Placements. Now, other things, and you can hover over any of these options. It'll show you all the different places where your ad could appear. So I definitely want it to appear in the feed. And then instant articles, that's another tricky one. I usually deselect that as well. That's where your ad could also appear on other websites within blog articles and things like that. I don't like that one either in many instances, so I often deselect it. Right column, if you have a good enough, nice visual ad, right column still could do well. Suggested videos, in this, as a traffic ad, we don't even have that as an option, but one of the, within the past year, Facebook made it where in certain ad types, like if you're running a video ad, your video ad could appear midstream while someone's watching a video on Facebook. As a consumer, that's kind of irritating. As an advertiser, some people like it, so whatever. And then Marketplace. Have any of you ever used Facebook's Marketplace? So if you haven't, check it out. People sell homes on the Marketplace. People put homes for rent on the Marketplace. So if you have an ad that appears in the Marketplace, it's going to appear mixed in, especially if you want to advertise a specific listing or something like that. That might be something worth considering. So that box, maybe, maybe not, just depends on what my ad is about and what I'm trying to accomplish. Instagram, that's going to be optional if you want the ad to appear on Instagram. Now here's a note about Instagram. If you really have a focus on Instagram and you want your ad to primarily appear on Instagram, my recommendation is run your ad directly through the Instagram app. Don't even run it through here, okay? So if you have Instagram and you have a business account on Instagram already set, then you can basically promote your post, which is like boosting it through the Instagram app. And I would recommend you do that if you really, really want to get your ad in front of an Instagram audience. If you select this option, it will appear on Instagram, but it's going to straddle between that ad showing up on Facebook and Instagram. And because Facebook has a bigger audience, a lot of times Facebook wins that struggle, okay? So if you really want it on Instagram, run it straight through Instagram.
And if you don't really care?
You don't really care, leave it, maybe do it on both and then see how it shakes out. Yeah.
For Instagram, can you go, where do you see the metrics for that? Do you have to only see it on the app? Okay.
Now, there is another tool I use for Instagram called Later.com.
Yeah.
And so Later will show you the stats desktop.
Okay.
So you could do it there. And then there's another app called Iconosquare.
Okay.
And that's an app you can integrate with your Instagram account. And you can get apps on desktop through there too.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So Iconosquare, just it's exactly how it sounds.
Yeah.
Let me write it down just so everyone else has it. This is not a good color. Get another one. So Iconosquare, if you guys, again, because you do, again, you want to not only run these campaigns, but you want to be able to measure your results. So So Iconosquare is a good one specifically for Instagram metrics. And then later.com is a good one for pre-scheduling Instagram posts and looking at metrics after. And both of them are apps and websites. Okay? Okay. So that's the feed, and then there's Instagram stories. Now here's the thing that I would recommend. Don't check Instagram stories unless you have a really beautiful vertical ad that looks something like that one, because most ads we do are horizontal. So unless you have a really nice big vertical one, I probably wouldn't check that either. So that partly depends on what kind of ad. Now there is a place when we get to the next screen, I'll show you guys, where if you do want to have an ad that appears in Instagram stories, there is a place where you can kind of upload an Instagram specific image. That way you have one image that's going to be good for Facebook and then one image that's going to be really good for Instagram. Okay. And then audience network, we talked about that, and then Messenger. Do you want your ad to appear in Messenger or not? Again, might be worth playing with, just depends. Could be something what I call trial and measure. Try it out, see how it goes. Okay. Then we get down to budget. So your budget can be daily or lifetime. Whatever you set it to. Usually it's, the minimum budget on Facebook is $1 a day. And that's also true when you're boosting posts. $1 a day is your minimum. Just depends on how long you're running the campaign, and if you're running it continuously or setting a start and end date, that's optional for you. And then down here, optimize for ad delivery. Usually it's set up for link clicks. In a lot of cases, by default, you can change this to what we call a manual bid, but in most cases, where's our manual bid option? Sometimes it gives you the manual bid, sometimes it doesn't, and that's my point. In most cases, Facebook will do what we call like an auto bid, basically where it takes all the factors you put in there, and then it says, okay, if you want to get a lot of clicks, then we're going to come up with how much you're going to pay per click. So most of the time it's going to be automated, but if it comes back and it's charging you $1.50 per click, which is very realistic in real estate because you're competing against a lot of agents, okay? And you're like, I don't know if I want to pay that, then you still have it within your control to pause that campaign. If you decide, hey, I need to revisit my targeting, or I'd like to get that cost per click lower. But here's what I'll also tell you. Once that campaign starts running, if you have a good campaign and it starts at $1.50 per click, chances are, if you're getting a lot of clicks to it, the cost is going to go down actually, and you end up paying less over time. So don't get sticker shock that first couple of days when your campaign starts running. If it seems higher, then you're like, I don't know if I want to pay that much, it's going to eat up my budget. If you have a really good campaign and you keep getting clicks on it, that cost is going to start to go down if you're doing that. And then I talked about optimizing your campaign and things like that, making sure you keep the good ads running, that kind of stuff. It's going to do well over time. Okay. All right, so continue. This is where you go into actually selecting your image and then kind of writing out your message and those types of things that you want to accomplish on the visual side of your campaign. So I would select, this is my business page, this is the Instagram account I have linked, and then what kind of ad am I doing? A single ad, a video, carousel, the kind that swipes over with multiple images. What kind of ad am I running? Now, we were just chatting about this. If you check the full screen experience box, then you need to have, basically you need to pick one of these templates to set up if you're going to do full screen experience. But again, if you're just launching a campaign, I wouldn't do it. Question?
What is your recommendation?
Don't do it. If you're just getting started, don't do it yet. Not yet. Maybe later. And that's newer too. I haven't personally tested that one enough to know how I feel about it. Could be worth exploring though if you've been running campaigns for a while and you're ready to try something a little bit different and you've got the leeway to really test those types of things and see how they work, okay? Then we can go here and pick an image. Again, this is where you go back to deciding, am I using stock images? Am I using a photographer? Am I using a graphic designer? If you wanted to have low cost graphic design, there's a great website called Canva. You can go on Canva. So Canva, this is my personal gallery of tons of images I have created. I'm not a designer. And so what Canva does right here when I click create a design, it has things pre-sized. So if I'm going to do a Facebook post, it's already pre-sized. and then it gives me templates that I can pick from, and then I could use those templates to create a really nice ad. So let's say I like this one, I want to do that one, or I want to do that one. So you can basically go in here, and then it's just a drag and drop editor. You start moving things around, you start moving images and frames and things like that. Really cool, easy to use.
What's it called? Canva?
Canva, Canva. Yep, canva.com. Canva's, it's freemium, so it's free. And you do a lot on free, but you do pay if you want certain other things. And when you're using these templates, the ones that say free in the bottom right corner are free, and then the ones that have a little $sign, you pay if you decide to use that template after you design it. But it's usually like $1 or $2. It's not that much, so it's pretty inexpensive. Another place, Pexels. I like Pexels for free stock images. So if you don't have a stock image account, this is a great place to get free stock images. Pexels, PEXELS.com. Okay. And then similar to Canva, there is Adobe Spark. So Adobe Spark is kind of just like Canva. It has those pre-designed templates you can pick. It's just really like, which one do you like to use better? It's just a matter of preference. They're about the same to me. And it's also free, or freemium, something like that. Okay, so those are a few tools. When you get down to the image part, when you're setting up your ad, again, those are some things to think about. And then you want to go ahead and upload something into your library. So here, this is my training group in the Bahamas yesterday. So that was fun. So, all right, so let's say we're putting that in there. And then here, we would go down, and then this is where we need to add in things like text for the ad, and then our website URL, and then our headline. So a few things. With text, Facebook isn't as strict as they used to be. You can usually fit more text in that box than you used to be able to in years past. But don't make it too long. You kind of want your captions, just like you would in a Facebook post, not to be too long. Kind of get straight to the point in it. If you want to have a really long post, consider doing a boosted post and then post it on your page and then go back and boost it later if you want to have something really, really long, which isn't uncommon either. Some people will do that or test a long post ad that they boost versus this style and see which one people respond more to. So you can do both, but you could type your text in here. This is where you would drop whatever you're sending people to right here, and then your headline, this needs to be your hook. This needs to be what's going to get somebody's attention that would make them even want to click on your ad. So your headline is really important. That's something, again, think about what's my unique offer, or am I a top agent, top 20% in Georgia, top 20% Atlanta Board of Realtors, or things like that, or, voted, 10 out of 10 on Zillow, things like that. That's the kind of stuff you want to make sure if you have a headline, you're doing attention-getting things that'll get people interested in wanting to click on your advertisement. So headline's important, and then you have your copy. And then right here is your call to action. Now the call to action is this button over here. So in some cases it says learn more, but you could change that. It could say contact us. You don't have to have a button at all. So you have a few options on what you want that call to action to be. And that call to action will show up on desktop and mobile. It just shows up slightly different on one versus the other. Okay? And then you can, one final thing down here where it says news feed, link description. So right down here below your headline, you could actually have a longer description there too. And that's totally optional. It only appears on desktop, but that's another chance to sell more and fit more text into your ads to tell more people, or maybe that's just a blurb you use that's a standard blurb about your business or who you are as an agent. All those little details you could also fit in the newsfeed link description. Okay? Any questions about this so far? Okay. So, I'm going to turn the light on again, and I'm going to give you guys a little time. If you flip over on the back of your first page, there's a messaging document, okay? And on the messaging document, this is the chance to start thinking about messaging that you want to have in place for your ad campaign. So, in one case, we talked about targeting And so your targeting can also go on this page too. Who am I targeting? And then you might want to start thinking about what's the specific message I might have. So remember, if I'm targeting first of all multiple audiences. So in one case I'm targeting first-time home buyers, and another one first-time sellers or something like that. Whatever the case is, then you could do that right here, and then your message might be slightly different from one versus the other. Now, the next section, and we might not get to this all today, so I'm going to encourage you to fill this in later. Things to think about, messaging questions. So these are things that help you figure out what you're going to say in your ad copy, okay? So what social proof, such as testimonials or reviews, do you have to support your brand? So a lot of companies, again, if you have reviews on Zillow, if your brand's already getting reviewed, Google, Zillow, Facebook, any of those places, then that's a great thing to insert in. It's social proof, it's verifiable, so those are good things that you could just kind of throw in your ad copy if you want. How can you overcome objections? So we talked about this a little bit earlier, being able to overcome objections. Sometimes, especially if you're writing a longer ad, so like I said, you're doing a long boosted post that has a lot of words in it, then you could kind of pre-think out what are the objections I know that this particular audience I'm targeting might be thinking, and I could list some of that and address it right there in my copy, my ad copy. How can you position your brand to show authority if that's important to you? But that's something else to think about. How do you show authority so that someone trusts you over another agent whose ad they saw? So how can you position yourself to do that? What are your audience's big frustrations or challenges? Again, proactively in your copy, if you address that, you're helping create an emotional connection, you're helping meet their needs, so it puts you in a position again where they can start to trust you right away. And then what's your hook? Which goes back to the headline. What is your hook? What's your unique selling proposition? What makes you a little different? Okay? So I'm going to give you like 2 minutes to fill that in and just start quickly brainstorming some ideas around that. Okay? Yeah, please. Let me get your email, and what I'll do is email you back, because I think I cleared mine out.
Where do you want me to write?
You can write it on this paper right here. That's good. Well, I didn't have any cards. She wanted a card. But you guys did sign a sign-in sheet, right? Yeah. So, did you sign?
Sorry, no.
That's okay.
Lately, I've been in and out. I've been.
Yeah, if
crazy.
you want, she just wanted me to follow up on her with something specific. But if there's anything you want me to follow up.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, there's a sign-in sheet here. Let me give you a sign-in sheet.
Perfect.
There we go.
What was that when you were saying that you uncheck, like you said you didn't want folks to, like the video game people to actually.
Yeah.
What was that?
That's under placements. So if we go back one page.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back on the left-hand side when you're creating your ad up here in this section under ad set.
Yeah.
I'm gonna click on that and then scroll back down to where it says placements, and then by default Facebook always has it set to automatic placements. I always change it to edit placements, and then I deselect audience network.
Audience network?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the one I was
And when you build like a carousel ad in this, can you do individual links for each photo? Because like, for example, I stock like Zillow. So Zillow does those individual links, but then when I build it, which I didn't build it this way, I can only choose one link. So I guess this is how you have to do it.
So you can do multiple.
Okay.
So when you do your first carousel image, you upload select image, you drop your link, then you go to number 2,
Awesome.
and then you do it like that. You can upload, I think, up to 10.
Yeah.
Now some people they aesthetically design their carousel, so you need to go through it a certain way.
Yeah.
But if you want people to go through it in a certain order, don't do more than 5.
Okay.
Because once you do more than 5, it just jumbles it up based
Good
on
to
the
know.
top performing carousel image.
Good to know.
Okay. Any other questions?
Are you going to talk about price at all, or can I ask that?
Yeah, but go ahead.
Cost and whatnot. Okay,
Yeah.
so, I was told when I was going to be going into like different marketing things, because I'm new like in the area, right? So I'm trying to build up just anything. I don't really know if I want to farm or whatever. So I like this. I've done boosted posts before, but never at like a high price kind of situation. What would you say is like the minimum that's like efficient? Because I would rather like wait for another deal or two to come through, you know what I mean? Than just like, oh, here's $10, here's $10 a bunch of times.
So my philosophy on boosting posts is do a few a week.
Mm-hmm.
Do them on popular posts if you have a bar already for what's popular.
Mhm.
If you don't, maybe you pick what you feel like could resonate possibly with your audience. And then
I normally do them for my listings.
Okay. And then at a minimum, I like to start with like a $3 a day minimum on boosting posts.
Okay.
I don't personally like to spend that much on boosting posts. And a lot of my clients, and even when I work with, I have partnerships with other agencies sometimes, and they might be running the campaign and I do a different part of the overall digital marketing. A lot of even other agencies, I see them boost in low dollar amounts.
Okay.
Usually I say no more than 20 a day. Now there are exceptions to that.
Yeah.
I have a client that used to boost his ads for $1,000 a day.
I'm sorry.
$1,000 a day.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the only kind of advertising he did. And what we found in his case, because I gave him the benefit of the doubt, I'm like, dude, I think you're overspending. What we found by going back and looking at after the campaigns would run, we go back and look at the ad reports. What we found was a few things. Number one, he hit a plateau at 2 p.m. every day.
Okay.
He would run these ads, and he was doing other things, other activities, and he had TV campaigns running too. A lot of that stuff ran early. So a lot of the traffic to his website and the Facebook stuff and all those people interacting with him, by 2 o'clock, it would kind of start to tank. So one, I would say, look, if you're going to run your ads, because he was running his own campaign and I was consulting with him, then we need to cut it off around 2 o'clock every day. You really don't need to run.
You can set time parameters for it?
You can set
Okay,
time
I can see
parameters.
that. Okay.
So if we go back one step, it's on this page. You can, back into the ad set section. There's an ad schedule option where you can set it to run ongoing.
Is it under budget and schedule and then?
Yes. There we go. Set a start date and an end date. So you could do that too. And then even beyond that, right down here, it's not giving me this option at the moment because I probably need to change some other things. But right here where I have it highlighted, run ad scheduling, run ads all the time or run ads on a schedule. So you could say, I only want my ads to run Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Okay.
So you could do that. So in his case, 2 o'clock was a cutoff, but he instead of doing that, he was just like, I'll just manually go in and shut it down at 2 each day. So that's what he would do. He would just pause it each day at 2 o'clock. Then we found the 1,000 he was spending also, he was overspending, so we started capping at 600 a day. Because again, he just kind of reached a point of diminishing returns where it just plateaued. He wasn't getting much more benefit out of it. So part of it, as you do start to kind of taper up your budget once you are running a campaign, is you want to start looking for things like that. And part of how you do that is, so if I go into kind of back down to my list of ads that are already running, so let me go to this account, they have a lot of active ads running. Then I typically, if not, to me, this is something you need to look at all the time, but once a month I pull a big Excel sheet and look at it on Excel. But at the very least, you need to be also looking at it. So what I would do is for this, to kind of get a feel for, are we spending right and what ads should we be pausing and targeting? Is our targeting working? Then what I would do is go in, and once a month, here's all my campaigns that are running. And then I go over here. So I'm under, by the way, I'm just under, in the menu, I'm under Ads Manager again, okay? And then I'm back in the Campaigns tab. And once I'm here, I go actually over to the far right, and there's an option, a drop down, and it's set by default to performance. I change it to performance and clicks. And then this starts to give me more data in my report that I'm interested in seeing. Right now I have it set to May, so usually by July 1 or July 2, I'm pulling June data to analyze what happened the previous month. And then I start looking, I actually download this into Excel and then I start sorting it. But just to show you for example purposes right in here, I start looking at things happening with the campaign, like some of these, actually let me export it because it is easier. So right here, export, and then it says you can export it into an Excel file. So I export it out, and then once it drops into Excel for me, then I start looking at certain column headers that I'm interested in really understanding a little bit better. And so to tell you guys what those things are that I'm paying attention to, so things that I like to pay attention to in a clean report like this would be, number one, the results column. I'm going to highlight these columns in yellow. So campaign name. Anytime when you pull a report, it starts with post : that's a boosted post. Okay, so we run a lot of boosted posts on this account, but it is again balanced if we even sort by campaign name with regular ads. So we do both, not just one versus the other. But if I kind of go down here to the bottom, these are just some of my regular website click campaigns and things like that. Okay. So again, things I'm paying attention to would be the campaign name itself, results. Now, results is did people do the action that was intended based on the objective you set up. So if you're running a likes campaign, then when I see 481 results, that means 481 likes. If you're running a traffic campaign and you see 481 results, that means 481 clicks to wherever you sent that traffic. So it depends on, again, right here, when I look at results indicator, was this a link click? Was this a like? Was this a post engagement? Because I boosted a post, so that column will tell you that information. Okay. Then I'm also looking at cost per result. So it's kind of like cost per click, but with Facebook, here's the little trick. Facebook does cost per result and cost per click in your data. So they'll tell you cost per result, and then if I scroll way over here, they'll also tell me cost per click. What cost per click means is this is how much I pay based on someone clicking anywhere on my ad, because they don't have to click my link just because it's there. They could decide on a traffic ad they want to like my page, or they want to click somewhere else, or they want to click the like button or something else, some other way they engaged with it. So those are things that get counted in cost per click. Cost per result is they did exactly what we intended for them to do. They liked the page, or they went to my website if it's traffic versus a likes campaign. Okay. And then of course how much we spent. That's helpful, just to know the running total. How much did we spend on the campaign for the whole month? So I might total that column out. Impressions is helpful. That just tells you in total how many times did people have the possibility of seeing my ad. Basically, how much did it appear in the news feed or the right column or wherever I told it to show up. Okay, so those are like some of the really, really big things that I pay attention to. And then clicks and click-through rate are two other measures. So, long answer to your question, but the reason why I pay attention to this, going back to your question about how much to spend budget-wise, is this is what helps me make decisions. When I am ready to kind of go into the next round, the next month, and I'm looking over these numbers, this helps me understand, am I good where I am with my budget, or am I willing to take it up a notch because maybe I had a really good month and my targeting is going really well and it hasn't plateaued, I'm still getting a lot of clicks out of it, so maybe I'm willing to take that budget up from $5 a day to $8 a day and see what that gets me. And then once you do that, the cycle starts all over. You still need to be monitoring every week your campaign to see how is it performing once you take it up to $8 per click. then you bump it to 10, and then so on. So I'm probably more conservative. My client, clearly he wasn't. He's very aggressive. And sometimes, again, that might depend on you as an agent, your personality, or if you're working as a team, who are you working with, what's their personality, and making those decisions. And I find, like, even in working with that client, sometimes he pushed it to the limit and I was uncomfortable, but sometimes it worked. So those are things, you know, it kind of just depends on your style and getting comfortable with that all together. Any other questions? Okay. So those are some things to think about when it comes to budgeting. All right, so let's roll back to this ad manager creation. So we've gotten through targeting, placements, things to think about on budget, and then comes the ad itself, copy, and then we talked a little bit about the visuals. Let me give you guys some other hints on visuals for your ad campaigns. Things that perform really well. Nothing outperforms an ad with faces in it. People, faces, and again, I would say in this case, not just stock images, but real people, real faces, real smiles, real things happening do well. So don't think in your ad campaign that you have to have some high-priced, fancy image to do well. It could be a picture of you standing with a client holding up some keys, and that could outperform a ton of other images that someone paid hundreds of dollars to hire someone to do. So those type of things do really well because that goes back to what the word I keep using, emotional connection. It makes you more believable. It makes you more heartwarming. Go ahead.
You're saying be you.
Be you. Don't feel like you have to cover up what you're doing in your advertising with stock images and things like that. If you can get images of yourself, if your clients are okay and you say, hey, is it okay if I use you in my advertising? Is it okay if I record you and I run a video ad showing you give a testimonial? I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know. But those types of things could go over really, really well because they're more authentic. And that's what people really like at the end of the day. They like authenticity. So don't feel like you have to go out, even though I kind of said, hey, think about brands you want to compete with. Just because they're doing the big stuff doesn't mean you have to. You still need to adapt to what's right for your personality, okay? And what's right for your brand and whatever you want to represent. So that just goes back to those types of things. And again, that also goes back to the audience. Now, again, if you say, look, I'm targeting luxury market and the attitude and the behavior of the people I'm targeting is maybe overly confident, borderline arrogant, then maybe I'm in a picture lean back on a Mercedes or I don't know, what's the other one? Maserati or whatever. Yeah. Or something like that. You know, maybe because that goes back to a style thing and who you're targeting. So you also need to be matching yourself up with who you're targeting, but it still needs to be authentic to who you are too. So be careful about that too, not to jump so far outside of your own comfort. Now, I do believe in pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, but don't jump so far out that it's clear in your marketing this is not you, because people will see through it and it won't do well in the end for other reasons even beyond this, okay? I believe in the law of attraction. So those are other things to just think about and keep in mind when it comes to your campaigns. Let's see what else. Got other stuff. Lots of stuff we can go through. All right, so let's go into, after you've got this all set up, let me talk you through some of the other things you also want to keep in mind that's up here kind of in your options of things you can do with your campaigns. So I've kind of alluded to this menu you have up here at the top. At some point, literally click through every link on this menu because there's just so many options you have. And like I said, from a strategic standpoint, it's not stuff I recommend you do it all right away, but it might be things you think about long term and in having an understanding of what the capabilities are that you can possibly do, again, once you've mastered one or two things really, really well. Basic things though that you do want to know that's in this menu is, one, under plan, there's a little button that says Audience Insights. Very often overlooked data that you can get. We were talking about data earlier. So if you already have a fan page and you already have, I'd say close to 1,000 fans on it, this is a great place to get insights about your fans. So when you click Audience Data, a little box is going to pop up. Choose an audience to start. And what I recommend you do is click people connected to your page, and then go to this little box where it has the arrow pointing you, and put your page in that box. Okay? Now once you do that, here it's going to give you some basics. It's going to tell you demographics of people who like your page in terms of their name, their gender. It's going to tell you their relationship status. Are they married? Are they single? Are they divorced? What's their education level? High school, college? How does Facebook know all this? Because we tell Facebook, right? So it's usually pretty accurate information on there, okay? Job titles. So what industries do these people fall into? Because all of this, going back to that targeting part, this helps you figure out that targeting piece a lot better. And earlier when we were talking about building customer profiles, this is going to help you develop a profile of who your customers are a lot better. Assuming first of all, that the fans on your page are your customers, okay? So that does make this assumption. And if you decide to run page like ads, then this will help you again, if you are running page like ads, see, are they funneling in the way I expect them to based on who I want to target? Now, that's the demographics tab. Then, if I click on this page likes tab, then this tab is going to tell me top categories of things that they like and other things they have interest on Facebook. So here we can see that these people like furniture, interior design, home decor. They like brands like Lazy Boy, Martha O'Hara Interiors, Suma's Lookbook, Lutron Electronics. And then here, page likes, Facebook pages that are likely to be relevant to your audience based on Facebook page likes. So our audience here, they really like South Shore Fine Linens, which is probably a competitor. They really like this other one, Stone Cottage, Progress Lighting, and so on. So again, more for targeting. So other things to think about when it comes to your targeting, okay? Location, this will tell us things like where's our audience from, by city, country, language. And then activity, finally, this will just kind of show you a little bit about activity. What kind of devices are they using? This might also help you understand, should my ads mostly be mobile friendly? Because a lot of people who like my page are on their phone, and I need to have ads and images that are more focused on showing up on the phone, or does it need to be desktop focused, or both? Do I have a mix? So this is data at your fingertips, but it's specific to your Facebook audience. No one else has this data. So this becomes really, really valuable for you to use too in coming up with your targeting ideas. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Any other questions on that? Okay. Other things on the menu you want to know, basics. So we talked about business manager, we've been an ads manager. Other things, we talked about pixels. Again, pixels, I encourage you, even if you're not going to do remarketing campaigns or you're not ready to, go ahead and put the pixel on your page because it's going to start tracking, or excuse me, on your website, because it's going to start tracking what people are doing on your website in terms of the pages they're visiting. And at some point, if you're ready to launch a remarketing campaign, that data will already be available to you. So I encourage you to do that. It'll say view setup instructions, and then it'll let you either install the code yourself or you just send it to your website developer and ask them to do it for you.
So we got Playster, so this is what I was...
You can do it on Playster. There's a place, and it says specifically Facebook Pixel on Playster, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. And if not, I think you can call them. They'll probably just tell you, but I'm pretty sure last time I was on Playster, I saw a space for it. So that's a great thing to do as well. So if you have Playster, you can probably just do it yourself. You don't have to contact a developer. Then over here, other things, we also have settings. So this is just basic stuff also. Your billing information and all that can be set up right here. You can also put what we call a billing threshold on your account, which means, let's say like on my account, my personal account, I have a $500 billing threshold. That just means at the end of the month, no matter what ads I have running, even if they're active and they're on, if I exceed $500,000, everything goes on pause. That helps me make sure I stay within my budget. So you could apply a billing threshold to your account if you choose to. You would just go under billing and go to your payment settings. And then right here where it says set your account spend limit, you could go ahead and change what that limit is. Change it, remove it, reset it. What'll end up happening though, if you're like, oh, I'm okay with going over budget this month, then you need to make sure you go in and manually like lift that threshold, or else your ads, doesn't matter if they say they're running, they're not running it anymore if you have that billing threshold in place. So that's just something else to keep in mind. Okay. And you can assign under your settings, you could also assign managers. No, let me see, let me go wrong place. You could also assign managers to manage your ad account. And so again, if you have someone else who is working with you on the ad campaign, then you can assign them basically as an ad account advertiser. That way they don't need access to your full Facebook account, your full username and password. They only see the advertising related to your account. So you do that under your settings, and then you could set that up as well. Okay, and then also right here, if you do have in this billing section, as you do start running your campaigns, you do get invoices. So if that from a tax standpoint needs to be reported to your bookkeeper, accountant, whatever, all the invoices go here as well. Okay, and usually with Facebook, especially if you're running a campaign under 500, the nice thing about that is they bill in arrears. Meaning if you start your campaign July 1 and it's like maybe under 500, you probably won't get billed till July 30. So that's also a nice little thing about it too. Okay. What other questions do you guys have for me?
Would you say it's more effective for like marketing, keeping in contact with your people, to have a Facebook profile for your business or a page for your business off of your personal profile?
So my recommendation is, I do think profiles are valuable in the business you're in. But if you're branding yourself as like a team, you definitely need a fan page.
Okay.
Now, here's a little trick. You can take your personal profile. So let's say you build you have a separate one that's even separate than your real personal profile that you're connected to family and stuff like that on, and you have your real estate personal profile.
Okay.
You could build that up to 5,000 friends. Okay, and those friends could be clients, they could be strangers you meet without advertising, people who you just kind of come across through groups and things like that who might be in the market to buy a home. You can build that profile up to 5,000 friends, and then you can convert it into a fan page, and you instantly have 5,000 likes on your page.
Okay.
So that's a little trick you can use that I've used with clients in industries where they can kind of market themselves as the business. That's a quick way to get followers. And
I don't like having to like be friends with the person to invite them to like the page. That's the thing, because I don't want everyone to like, you know, outside of realtor Katie. But she's great, don't get me wrong. But like, I'm just, private.
Right. Which you can hide yourself, which I have clients do.
Right. I don't know, I'm like that.
Yeah.
So that I was trying to wonder if I should turn the page into a profile, but it sounds like maybe not.
No, if it's already a page lead. Now, here's the thing. Remember, if you have a profile, you cannot advertise. You have to have a fan page in order to have advertising ability.
Okay, well, there you are.
So profiles cannot advertise.
Okay, thanks.
So if you're doing a profile, again, it's purely for maybe something like what I mentioned. You're just branding yourself. You're building up a collection of friends, and then maybe at some point you plan to convert it into a fan page and take all those people with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Thank you.
Is fan page different from business page? Is that
No, they're the same thing.
Gotcha.
Fan page and business page are the same. What else? Do y'all want more time to maybe dig into strategy, or do we feel pretty comfortable? Good starting point to kind of start jumping into this a little.
Yeah.
Okay. And for any of you already running campaigns, any other questions, anything specific that you have, or any challenges?
Just a comment. I was telling Margaret here that when I first ran my ad campaign, I jumbled everything into the one ad.
Yes.
So like I over customized it.
That's the target.
And I didn't get any good results.
Yes.
And so I'm like, well, what? So I just stopped the thing. But now I realize that I should have had the 3 and then optimized it.
There
so
we go.
yeah, I was like, okay, I need to figure out what happened. Because I mean, I was like, income,
Very
finances,
common.
and like every lifestyle, everything was jumbled into one
Yes.
campaign.
And that's very realistic. That's why I explained this to y'all, because that's very realistic. That you're just like, I want to target this person, I want to target that person, blah, 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 and you just have this long list, and it's usually not effective. That's why we want to break them up into ad groups, or excuse me, ad sets. Ad groups is a Google AdWords term, and in Facebook we call them ad sets. So yes, that's why you want to do that. Great point.
Well, for Google, they're the same thing, right?
What's that?
For Google, they're the same thing. Ad groups is similar to ad sets.
Correct. The campaign structure on Google AdWords would be just like this, except they just have different names for it.
Gotcha.
Yep.
How much is it to hire someone to just do all this for you? Because, you know, it's great. I just, wow.
So there's a lot of
wonderful.
companies.
This is great information. I wrote a lot. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
There's a lot of companies that will do it based on budget. Sometimes if you can find like just a freelance marketer, like Upwork is a good place to start, where you could just find maybe a freelance person who charges $20 an hour or something like that, and they might be able to manage your campaign for you. If you feel like, hey, I want to start it, and then I still have some level of control, but I want to spend less, maybe you get a virtual assistant. You could find virtual assistants also on Upwork. I have a virtual assistant. She's in the Philippines. She's $4 an hour. It's awesome.
UPWORK.
Now that did require a lot of searching,
Sure.
and she does require management. So I can't just say, here you go, girl, go for it. No. I still have to manage her. But you know, it's just like hiring anyone for a job. You're looking for a certain skill level and things like that. And then you need to kind of communicate your vision and everything in order to get them to do their best. And so you got to kind of help them help you. But those are some places to start. And then there are agencies. I'm more on the agency side. I'm kind of in between. I'm not a big agency, but I'm not in the freelance category either. So you could do that too. That's something that might work well, like if you're on a team. And so maybe as you grow as an agent, maybe you move to that level. And then in our case, we don't want to just run ads. Like we need to be looking at other things you're doing, because your landing page, all those things also impact your ad campaign. And I kind of brought that up earlier, so let me bring that up again now. The destination that you send people to in your ad campaign really, really makes a difference. And one more little trick for getting your cost per click lower, when you're looking at this performance and clicks that I showed you guys, if you go to the ads tab, there is also, under ads, there is a metric on here called relevance score. Let me try to get to it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, relevance score. So relevance score is on a scale from 1 to 10. And so we have a lot on here, luckily, 8s and 9s and all that. So the higher the relevance score, the better, okay? What Facebook is doing when they're determining how much you're gonna pay per click for your campaign, they're looking at your ad copy, they're looking at your image, and they're looking at your landing page. So wherever you're sending people makes a huge difference. If it's a bad landing page, if it feels spammy, it's a terribly put together site, Facebook will probably give you a lower relevance score. If you're sending them to a page that's completely unrelated to what you're talking about in the ad copy, Facebook will give you a lower relevance score. Relevance score is usually correlated to cost per click. So your ad, they won't stop your ad from running. They're just going to give you a 3 or 4 relevance score, and then maybe your competitor who's paying 25 cents per click, you might be paying $1.50 per click because you have that lower relevance score. And it's like, we don't really want to show their ad that much, so we're going to make them pay more. And maybe they eventually just stop advertising on Facebook. We want the people who have nice landing pages and nice ads and get lots of clicks. And it benefits us, Facebook, to charge them less because they're going to keep advertising with us. And over time, they're going to keep spending more money with us. That's the logic. So landing pages matter a lot. So keep that in mind too, that the way your website looks and then in your campaign, the destination you're sending people to makes a huge difference. And again, in some cases, when I'm running campaigns, sometimes we send people to the website, but never the homepage. Never the homepage. We always send them to a very specific page related to the ad. Because when you send someone to the homepage, you're not telling them what to do. You're leaving them to wander. We don't want to pay for people to wander. We want to pay for leads. So we need to send them to a place where they can become a lead. Okay? Sometimes we also send people to landing pages that don't have any navigation for the same reason. They get on that landing page and it might say, would you like your home valuation report? Fill out this easy form. And there's nowhere else for them to go except to fill out that form or get off my landing page. And I want to pay for one or the other. And that's it. So that's part of the strategy as well. Landing pages make a huge difference. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. So, round 2 of this training, you guys, is July 11th. Will be 1 to 4 again. And we've got 15 minutes left, so I'll stick around if people have one-off questions. I'm here to answer any questions you have for the next 15 minutes. I will get with James regarding sign-in, and he should have all your email addresses, or I'll probably just send to him like a few of the links and things like that I shared. And then this document, I'll share it with him electronically as well. That way, if you want to kind of refresh your plan or anything like that, you have this electronically as well. But I'll send that to him. That way you guys have that information. When we meet July 11th, if you decide to come back, it's going to be Google AdWords training. So some of the things overlap, but Google AdWords is also a very different world, and how you set up campaigns and all those other things and how you target, main thing, targeting on Google AdWords is very, very different than how you target on Facebook. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that and how to properly set up ads in AdWords, particularly if you're running search ad campaigns, which is a great starting point when you're first getting into running Google AdWords campaigns. Okay, so I'm gonna stick around if you got questions. Thank you guys so much for participating. You got my email address, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to stop this broadcast. Sorry. Yeah, okay.
I mentioned earlier that I have my business page, but it's tied to my personal page.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I post on the business page basically posts on my personal page.
Mm.
So all my contacts are personal. Is that, am I doing that wrong?
It might be, yeah, it might be. Yeah, sorry, because I was like, I didn't know how to turn it off.
That's all right, I got you.
Okay, so everything you post on your personal page is also